Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 13th of December, 2020. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Woo.
And Robert Kemp.
Ooh, that was way more enthusiasm than I was expecting for some reason.
Was it? Barely enthusiasm.
I mean, it had duration. It had a
It had a long tail. Yeah.
Well, you need to sit down. That was covering for you getting into position, clearly.
I appreciate it.
Is Woot definitely dead now? Been 10 years since anyone ever said Woot.
Probably.
I mean, you very rarely. I mean, iWoot still exists.
Is
that the metric?
Yeah, but that's a coincidence, is it? Maybe not. I want one of those.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it probably
That
is.
doesn't even...
I mean, it's not even leet.
No, it's not. It's not leetified. They haven't put zeros in there.
You definitely don't see many 1111 exclamation marks. Like
no one seems to do that anymore. Yeah, leet speak is definitely dead.
I do occasionally still look at the clock and go, "It's a leet o'clock."
Yeah. That happens a surprisingly large number of times.
It does. Yeah.
Looking at the clock in the corner of your monitor, and it happens to be exactly that time.
I don't know how that happens so much. I used to say it like practically every day, and no one never knew what I was talking about for a long time.
What, 37 minutes past 1? Or...
Yeah.
I set all my clocks to a boring 12-hour time. I don't know why. You should probably change to proper 24-hour clocks.
Yeah, that's my preference now. I never go back. Never go back. It's leet o'clock.
It's very much not.
It's definitely not leet o'clock. It's Lassie o'clock right now.
No.
Or Lasai. Lasai? Lasai. Isai.
Yeah, it's a maybe.
I say it's I say o'clock.
Yeah, they're close enough.
There you go. There's an insight into when we record this, listeners. It's your behind the curtain moment for the week.
As if you couldn't tell about how we were always talking about eating food immediately after the podcast.
Yeah.
Depends when you eat food. I think usually it was around 8 p.m, right? It was the classic pizza o'clock.
Yeah, well, it depends where everyone is.
Yeah. I think we always aim for The Simpsons on Sky 1 at 7 p.m. That was the classic tea time.
Yeah, I seem to remember that time was incredibly awkward when I was growing up. And that, like, so if I ever wanted to watch The Simpsons, I couldn't because we were doing something, probably eating. Or probably that's when the parents took over the TV or something.
Because it was slightly earlier on BBC Two. It was like 6:30, I seem to remember.
Mm. And then Channel 4 nicked it, and I don't know when it was.
I don't know what happened after that. Yeah.
And did 5 have it for a bit?
Really, The Simpsons?
Where is it now? It got picked up by someone else again. I mean, Sky, obviously, they've always had it.
And now we're in this world of how many bloody streaming services do you buy after? Do you get Netflix and another one? Do you get Amazon as well? And now there's Disney Plus. It's like, oh, I don't want to pay for another one. But then it's like, hold on. The strongest argument for Disney Plus is it has all of The Simpsons.
Oh, yeah.
Sorted. I haven't actually paid for it yet, but I probably will on that basis. Screw The Mandalorian. It's all about The Simpsons.
Yeah, The Mandalorian alone, and even The Simpsons for that matter, that's not enough to draw me in.
But you only actually want like 50% of The Simpsons.
Yeah, but that's fine. It's less than 50% now at this point. Yeah. It's more like the first 20% of The Simpsons.
It is kind of funny watching one of the modern ones, just like randomly, like if you just happen to catch one, and it's just like, it's still kind of funny. It's just not the same funny, right?
Yeah, quite different. It's just like, that's fine, but why didn't they just make a new show? I guess that's not how the world works.
I mean, they did. It's called Family Guy, except that wasn't them.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually prefer that. I'd rather watch Family Guy than New Simpsons, just because even if New Simpsons is potentially the same kind of level of comedy or funniness, just because Family Guy is like a different thing and it's not trying to harp on characters from the greatest show ever.
I mean, it is like, it's not necessarily even that the comedy or whatever is the same. It's just the structure. That's why I don't like New Simpsons, because they've adopted the structure of a Family Guy.
Well,
Of,
with all the
like-
cutaway gangs.
Yeah,
and
it's
stuff.
like three different simultaneous, not really storylines happening,
Right.
and a bunch of cutaway jokes. And it's just
Yeah.
like I don't really like that structure for The Simpsons.
No.
It's fine in Family Guy.
I mean, The
guess.
Simpsons would have an A plot and a B plot, like standard sitcom
Mm.
style, right? The classic Simpsons, usually. But yeah, going totally having three separate threads and cutting away constantly to cutaway gags. It's a bit much. I have heard that, like,
they don't, in what I've seen, they don't do that often. The whole cutaway thing, but yeah, it does. It can happen because it's just such a trope now, isn't it? It's like since Family Guy started it, I can't think of a show that really doesn't do it all that much. It's
yeah,
a sitcom style cartoon.
it's for sure it's a big trend. It's funny because, like, well, South Park doesn't do it famously, and then they had that whole episode about how much they hated it. In Family Guy, right, which was years ago now. Cartoon Wars, remember that, where it was like the manatee takes the idea ball. That was so funny, but it was also quite cool. And I've seen interviews with, like, Seth MacFarlane where he's like, those cutaway gags are some of the hardest things to write.
Simpsons did it, but the problem I always have with, like, a cutaway gag is surely that they're most of the time just like they just throw it in, right? It's like they probably have written all of those separately, and then it's just like where can we? And the hard part, I bet, is actually finding where in the script it makes sense to use them.
Yeah, do you think they're written as like little vignettes, and then they have to figure out how to slot them into the? But then they're bending the main plot around to make excuses for their stupid little 1 second sketches.
I'm pretty sure that's how TV works.
Well, sometimes they don't even do that though. Sometimes the cutaway gags are just like they don't actually exist in terms of the actual storyline or whatever.
No,
it's just like a complete alternate universe has just happened for a second.
I don't know. It can work, but don't do that to The Simpsons. Just end it. Make a different show where you do that. I don't know. Oh well. And then it started getting awkward with all of the ARPU and all of that stuff. Like,
oh yeah,
that was fine in the 90s. Well, not fine, but but like if The Simpsons had ended, there would be no controversy. But instead, they just carry on as if it's still the 90s, which it isn't, and then still have old white people voicing all these ethnic characters, and I don't know. You should have just ended it.
But you can't really change the voice. That's the problem. Like,
Well,
once
no.
you started, you can't change a character like that.
But they just retire the character because he's not going to do the voice now because he's realised it's hurting people's feelings. Which is sensible.
I mean, Apu had moments, but he wasn't the
No.
funniest character.
I mean, yeah, but that's just one, example. I mean, apparently what the writers of The Simpsons, the classic Simpsons, are saying now that they regret is like, well, not really, but like because they're now old, they're like, oh, we were so harsh on old people in The Simpsons, which is true.
Maybe harsh. I don't know. Still feels kind of accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 streaming services is too much.
Yeah. Well, I've only got Netflix, but I
only really Prime Video was never the reason I got Prime until I actually started watching Prime Video, and then it's like, oh, okay, this can stay.
Well, I'm the other way. I got Amazon Prime. Yeah. Maybe I'm the same, but I got Amazon Prime for the free delivery years ago. And as soon as they were like, "You're going to get this video streaming service plus we're doubling the price," I immediately cancelled because I was offended.
It was, I can see because it existed when I, Prime Video was already a part of Prime when I got it, and I wanted in on a Prime day. Well, effectively, what happened was like the amount of savings I'd have made on that Prime day for some of the smart home kit I was after outweighed the cost of Prime for that year.
Right, yeah.
So it's like, oh, well, that makes sense. I'll just do that then and have Prime as well for sort of free by some metric. But yeah, I've kept it. I've ended up watching a lot of their original stuff, and
that's cool.
Hey, that's where the first 6 volumes of RWBY have been. I know you can watch it on Rooster Teeth's website, but hey, it's convenient watching it in an omnibus package. I'm friggin' addicted to RWBY. It's so good.
One thing I don't like about, I mean, that Amazon interface is kind of annoying. Like, it's covered with stuff that you have to pay extra for, which is so annoying.
I do think it's mildly easier on the Amazon. Oh yeah, that whole look for the Prime banner thing totally sucks. But I do find it slightly easier to scroll through it and have it surface things that aren't entirely based on the algorithm looking at me. Right, yeah. Whereas Netflix, all of the categories are the same. Yeah. You scroll down to like newest added and it's still only picking things that clearly it's algorithmically thinks are related to me. And it's like, no, I went to this list to see everything that you've added. And it's like, it's clearly not that.
It is annoying. It's not quite as bad as YouTube, but it's pretty annoying.
Oh my god! Don't even get me started on YouTube. Did the ad Armageddon thing happen on YouTube? Because it's got really annoying of late.
I think it's happened, hasn't it?
I don't think they've got to the putting ads on literally every video point, but they're still in the midst of every video has 2 unskippable 5-second ads at the start.
Yeah, not even at the start. So, like,
and middle.
The TGA's.
Mid-roll,
I was watching the official TGA stream, not live, but like played back later. And they would just insert Wonder Woman ads, like completely in the middle of anything, like at any time. It's not like there were specifically designated ad zones or anything like that. It would just cut and shove in 5 seconds of Wonder Woman running to and now back to your melancholy trailer. It's like, oh god damn, stop it! And now it's on every video. It's like
the Wonder Woman ad has been now it's prevalent because that film's about to come out, I guess.
I know,
but you get that one unskippable quite frequently now.
But it seems like that time limit as to how far into the video before you get one of those seems totally random. Like there are certain times where I can watch like a 15-minute video and not see one, and I'm like, that was a pleasant experience. And there'll be other times where I'll be like 5 minutes in and it'll throw one in, and then another 5 minutes after that it will throw another one in.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's like, well, I don't know what options that people might have to set where, because you can theoretically, because I've seen people do it, you can set where adverts appear in the video,
and
therefore you can build your video to do that, like make an ad break essentially.
You absolutely can. Yeah, you can have designated.
But I don't know what the like generic options are for just like disperse ads randomly through this video or whatever.
Well, I mean, I guess most people who monetize were expecting to have like that pre-roll, which again, I don't mind nearly as much. It's irritating.
I would assume that is one of the options, right? To have pre-roll or mid-roll or both.
I would much pre-roll is far more acceptable than just jamming it in the goddamn middle. So it's properly irritated.
I've been enjoying Donkey's week of meta YouTube content. Don't know if you've seen this.
No.
He put out a video at the start of the week saying, I'm done making good videos, and then explained his new strategy for monetization, which I thought was like a joke, obviously. But then he's been following through by making satire, stupid YouTube videos all week. Like it's like Minecraft Wednesdays, Among Us Thursdays, Reaction Fridays, and he's actually been doing them. But they're all little vignette jokes in themselves, and they're all on trending, so it's also working and making him money. So it's really funny.
Oh no! But that's depressing at the same time.
I know. I mean, he's obviously not going to turn into one of those people, but it is funny. Like he's a genius. I don't know. He's showing like how bad YouTube is getting, and making a parody of it, and it's funny. Genius.
But he's also part of the problem.
Well, no, I mean, he's not really going to carry this on. This is just a little performance art thing, but it is funny.
It is. Oh, it's disturbing. It's like okay. I have to put this out there before I say anything. I have absolutely nothing against YouTube creators in general and the people that watch them, but it was kind of annoying watching the whole the TGA thing when they only have the tiny little snippets of like content creator of the year, and it's like and showing you each one, and it's like the clips they show are, here's a person playing a game and raising an eyebrow and occasionally shouting "watch out" in a screechy voice, and it's like how do you discern one from the other?
I feel like maybe they could have put some more effort in to pick better
Yeah.
clips. Like I'm sure that's like what those people do every day is like that, and they probably have a following because of that. But you could have like picked them slightly better highlight of like something interesting that they do rather than just their regular daily stuff.
Absolutely. If you're going to convince me on a content creator or introduce me to a new one, or even I need to see what's unique about them, other than possibly smug 20-somethings with lots of money to spend on streaming kit, and clearly nothing better to do with their time. Sorry, I shouldn't spite the successful.
I know so little about YouTube, famous YouTubers, that when Donkey was doing a parody or a reaction or a YouTube Drama Monday parody video, he was talking about Jake Paul and Logan Paul, and I couldn't tell.
Oh, those ring a bell.
I had to look it all up afterwards because I couldn't tell which parts were a joke and which parts were real, but a lot of it was real.
It's pretty much all, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know he was a boxer or what. I don't know. It's really weird. And he kept interchanging the names, but it turns out they're brothers and they're basically the same person anyway. So it's and they're both stupid YouTubers. Oh, listeners, have we got technical problems here?
Have we? Why?
Yeah, I think we may have lost Zach.
Oh yeah, so we have. Oh well, he'll come back.
See if he comes back.
He did say before the podcast that his house had a worrying light flicker before that he was surprised didn't take out his PC.
Oh, what, like a electricity blip?
Yeah, like a proper horror film flicker,
Oh, weird.
I wonder. I don't know if I've seen one of those I don't know when the last time I saw a proper light flicker, or
No.
I remember when I was a kid, you'd get those odd power surgy moments every now and then with your filament bulbs might dim for a second.
Yeah,
but it was only a subtle dim. It wasn't a full on
a small dim. Yeah, I mean all I ever get nowadays is the it trips and everything goes dead.
Oh, I don't even get that. Not for a long time. Well, I mean, it's happened, but this neighborhood seems pretty stable. I don't know why. But...
Right, should we
Must
start
be nice.
our news coverage and see if that comes back?
I mean, I guess we could. Some of it is will be to Zach's taste, but maybe we can remember what those are and come back to it at some point. Yeah, so I'm just pulling up my notes. A little bit, phone's being a little bit sluggish.
So the big news has been the Game Awards, right? I guess
the Game Awards. Yeah, that's kind of the
TGAs.
Yes, always the last big hurrah of the year, I suppose. And for a lot of things, the official cut-off point for Game of the Year discussions. It's if it didn't make the TGAs, it's next year.
Wait, Cyberpunk is next year, everyone.
Yep. Yeah, they sort of made a comment right at the start of the show. It's well, thanks for joining us. You managed to tear yourself away from Cyberpunk. Well done. Yeah. So, I mean, that's quite. I mean, it was a long old show, or long thing. Too long, in fairness, because it's kind of peters out towards the end. It starts relatively interesting and then just gets a bit dull towards the end. Which is a bit of a shame because it's it just I'm not quite sure. I think it's just in terms of what games ended up appealing to me. I found myself skipping through things more.
Yeah, it's just super boring.
Yeah,
it was way too long and super boring.
Yeah, there's not a huge amount of there's no real there's very few massive oh, what are you doing kind of moments, but there's a couple. So let's get started.
Let's get to the good stuff.
Yeah, I'm not doing the whole thing. About a third of it, maybe. So during the pre-show, the first game that was announced was a Devolver Digital thing, and they came out and did their little piss take of award shows, Devolver style. They're carrying on that thing. But it was for another run-based card building roguelike game, and it's dawned on me that I am so done with those. Like the run-based genre is the thing that's now too full. I need other types of games, please. Stop making run games. Well, don't stop, but just stick to making. Be more interesting, people. But the next game was like immediately kind of interesting. It's called Chia, with a T on the front. So Chia.
Right.
And doing a comparative description is always a bit reductive to people who don't know what I'm talking about. But it's the best way to describe this thing. It's like, okay, take Breath of the Wild with Mario Odyssey's possession of objects and things, and then put it in a Moana-looking package. So Pixar's Moana, or was it Pixar? No, it's Disney's, isn't it? Disney's Moana, and it's like, you end up with what Chia is, and I got a bit like, okay, the main characters are kids and all that stuff, but it looked pretty interesting. It was well presented and pretty good.
Someone else getting on the Breath of the Wild / Mario Odyssey bandwagon slightly later than you would imagine.
Yeah, but there was even a bit of Wind Waker in there as well, because obviously the Moana aspect, there's seas and tropical stuff. Yeah, so it opened with a bit of sailing. And
although that doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be sailing. That could just be like a coastline. You might not actually go around on the sea.
Yeah, I mean that was the thing. I think this was a mostly cinematic trailer, as almost everything in the show was. So yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, it was a relatively good start to the show. I thought, like, after Loop Hero, but then it's like, here's this kind of unique take. Skipping ahead a bit, we got to see some gameplay of Nier Replicant, which is the remake of the first Nier games. Well, one of the first Nier games. I can't remember.
How many Nier games are there before Nier Automata?
It's technically 2, I think, but they were kind of released at the same time as a sort of Pokemon Black and White kind of deal.
Oh, okay.
There were 2 versions of it, and I think the US and Europe only got one of them. And I don't know what Replicant's doing with that. But hey, it looks like they've got that sort of that's the combat that they had from Nier Automata back, and looks good. Lots of bullet hells, dodging whilst in an action. Was it a character action game? But it's not being developed by Platinum this time. Toy Logic are working on it, which I didn't realize. But they seem to be doing a good job of keeping Platinum's feel to the combat.
Well, presumably they just got that engine right. Just like we just have to put the content into it.
Exactly. Yeah, they probably had access to all the code and could just be like, "Yeah, let's do that." And we got some flying dragon combat in the form of Century, Age of Ashes. Only noting this because I spent most of the trailer going, "Did someone look at Leia from the PS3 days and think this needed revisiting?"
Leia?
Leia, yeah.
Okay, I thought you said Leia.
Leia. Hey, well, however you're supposed to say it. Mary Berry's Leia. It was and I was mildly interested for a second, thinking it's like, okay, maybe this might be this looks a little bit like it could be an on-rail shooter, or maybe it's a sort of Star Fox with dragons or something like that. And then they were like, intense multiplayer battles, and I'm like, no. Well,
it's just Star Wars again, but with dragons.
Maybe, yeah. Wasn't so interested after that. And then they greeted everyone watching the stream saying everyone is here. Which obviously meant the Smash announcement was coming.
And then after this, it was just like, this is the point I should have stopped watching. I shouldn't have suffered through the next 3 hours of this, really.
You got what you needed.
Yeah, but I did, stupidly.
Well, it's because you've got a podcast to produce. It's like,
I could have watched the highlights, and it would have been way better.
Yeah, probably. You've probably been all right. But hey, Sephiroth is in Smash, or will be very soon.
Sephiroth.
Surprisingly.
Yeah.
because like
Surprisingly, you think?
well, I mean, people here had suggested him as a character before, but like no one recently had been saying that might be a thing that would happen.
Are they still on Waluigi?
Well, of course, but like all the other characters. Unfortunately, I guess it seems when you think about it, Sephiroth probably is the nail in the coffin of Sora and Geno because they're both Square characters, and it's fairly safe to assume that Square isn't going to take up more than one slot of this fighter pass.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Square are still potentially pushing the whole FF7 remake angle,
Well, sure.
right?
I mean, that would be why. That would be why. It'd be one of the reasons why.
But then
yeah.
Sora will be coming out in that, was it that Kingdom Hearts rhythm game, or has already come out in that Kingdom Hearts rhythm game?
But that company-wise, I imagine if Square are only going to get one slot, which would make sense, then they've used it now. So no Sora and no Geno, probably.
I mean, I was more annoyed. It's like going back to the Final Fantasy well is fine, but a bit of me was kind of hoping they would go for a deeper cut.
Yeah, that might have been interesting. Like one of the other Final Fantasy games.
Yeah.
Some other random character in. Put Kefka in, he's basically Sephiroth.
Oh man, Kefka would be pretty cool. Yeah, or even just, I mean, it wouldn't be that different, I suppose, but you could bring in Squall for the Gunblade and then try and do something interesting with that. Like,
he should have just been
throw in some Renzo Kuken
Cloud.
Well, maybe. But I'd want some active, like, slashy, damagey thing to do with the Gunblade. And
bit like Incineroar's side B thing, where you have to trigger it at the right time.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it could have been kind of cool. Or maybe even like do the Tekken 7 thing and bring in Noctis even. I know they're done with Final Fantasy 15, but Noctis at least would be like potentially a mechanically interesting character.
Instead
with
you
his
get
teleporty attacks.
More swords.
Instead you get another sword. And Mario nearly died. I have to admit, I did laugh for that shot from the game on. I was just like, ha.
Well, this whole video is basically just avid children, which is weird. It's like,
no, I love it.
Apparently, at least in Smash Bros, people still care about avid children. like all the shots and like the text, the dialogue, that's all from avid children. And on the extra plus side of this, we're presumably actually going to get a decent amount of Final Fantasy music this time instead of 2 tracks.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think that's any guarantee. We'll get one Winged Angel, and then that might be it.
No, they've got to do at least 2. You can't have less than Cloud. That would be ridiculous.
So what's next? Is the obvious question? Who's coming? Like,
well, I mean, the same people we've always been saying are coming, except not Geno and Sora.
Master Chief.
I'm still hoping for Master Chief, though now he's in Fortnite apparently, so
yeah,
not that stops you being in Smash, because fucking everyone's in Fortnite.
As is Kratos, and as are 2 characters from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
All of those announced.
There was a rumour going around that Samus was going to be in Fortnite.
Well, yeah. Why not?
Yeah, I guess.
Haven't Inti done any Fortnite crossovers yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, they'd probably just throw in some Mario hats first. Or like have some Mushroom Kingdom things. Or maybe Nintendo don't want it to be in a game with guns. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But then Samus has a gun.
It's a different kind of gun.
Well, maybe Joanna Dark will be the next character to get in Smash, because
not,
the next
that would have made sense if it was timed to this announcement.
Well, yeah, maybe, but we now know what Microsoft's new studio, the Initiative, secretive project is, and it's a new Perfect Dark game.
Because Rare in Microsoft is no longer capable of making Perfect Dark.
I mean,
this may be the smartest decision they could have made.
Yeah.
It's like we want to make a Perfect Dark, but we don't think Rare are capable, or at least got their hands full with Sea of Thieves and Everwild.
But what are they really taking from Perfect Dark? I mean, from that trailer, it seems like it's Cyberpunk, which Perfect Dark was, and
it's Datadyne.
Yeah, you get their logo.
You get their logo at the top of the building, and then she's called Joanna Dark, Agent Dark. I don't know.
Red hair.
She's got red hair. There you go.
And you might be flying a drone.
Yeah, that's just
That
Cyberpunk,
trailer-
though. Is that? I mean, obviously that was an important part of Perfect Dark, but again, it's another thing that was just built on those tropes, wasn't it? Which is fine.
I guess Perfect Dark never really had a uniqueness to any of its settings, though, right? And so now they're trying to at least
Not really.
position the world as being, and we found the scientific answer to farming, I guess.
Because the thing is, Perfect Dark did literal aliens.
Yeah, it was
Which
Area
is-
51
Which
again.
is a bit of a problem. Like, at least in Deus Ex, the aliens are like not real aliens. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, which they then didn't have to do in the second one because it was a prequel.
Oh right. I don't remember anything about Perfect Dark Zero.
That's probably wise.
For the best.
I mean, there was some kind of Chinese, like, Karate Kid style guy, not maybe not Chinese, Japanese, sort of Mr. Miyagi type character who put you in an Unreal tournament. Like, I don't know.
Sure.
It's a weird game. At least I had a nightclub level. Gotta love a nightclub level. And something that may be of more interest to all of us came next. Turtle Rock Studio, who are effectively ex-team members of, the Left 4 Dead team, or a large portion of them are.
Oh.
They showed off their not at all rip-off game called Back 4 Blood, and we got to see some gameplay of it.
Announced
We already knew about it. We knew
Yeah.
Back 4 Blood was about, but we hadn't seen anything of it yet. We hadn't seen any gameplay. And,
Not that you need to see gameplay because it is just Left 4 Dead.
It's Left 4 Dead, yeah.
I mean, that's good. So what? Is this all cool with Valve? I guess it is, right? I don't know.
Well, they didn't get to take any of the design or anything, like all the special infected. I don't like the new special infected because they're just like generic meat piles now instead of like the old Left 4 Dead special infected were kind of these weird archetype, like stereotypes of actual people but turned into zombies.
Yeah.
It doesn't like the hoodie hunter and all that stuff.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, they don't look quite so distinctive yet from what we've seen. We don't know how many of them there are. They did say they were like making everything, scaling everything up, more campaigns, more types of zombies, more of everything really, which is exactly what that game needs. It just needs more variety.
More in the
but they left out they left out kind of the detail that I really want to know. It's like that those Left 4 Dead games both succeeded and struggled to make each run unique enough, if you know what I mean. So the whole thing about the director, do you remember that, where it changes up the runs a little bit every time?
Yeah.
But it only ever changed things up a little bit, really. What you really
more
want
Left 4
is
Dead 2.
Yeah, to some extent, but never quite enough. And it's like I want them to do really dramatic, crazy ass stuff with randomizing runs and all that kind of stuff. I know this is literally what I just said seconds ago. I'm done with run-based games, but I'm done with most run-based games because they're not wild and crazy enough. That was kind of my problem with was it Neon Abyss that I played earlier in the year and stuff like that. It's just not quite cool enough. It's not quite crazy enough. So let's see if they can sort that out. No one said pills here, though.
No. Because they're refills. Maybe they can't even steal that from Left 4 Dead.
Pills here. I mean, they had a safe room and you could shoot out the window.
Yeah, that was very similar. They'll have to come up with a different, it'll have to it'd be like pills, but it won't be pills. Although I guess in Left 4 Dead they already had adrenaline shots as well.
Yeah, you can't just...
There's only so many medical things that you can easily use as a health thing.
You could use
medical
pills as well.
aerosol here.
Inhaler here.
Surgical team here.
Maybe you get to play as Chicago Ted.
Yeah, maybe.
No zombies.
I wouldn't be surprised if they still definitely reference that in the graffiti in the safe rooms or whatever. That will be something that Turtle Rock will get to steal from Left 4 Dead.
I think they'll allow a certain amount of homage, right? And,
I mean, it's called Back
winks and
4
nods.
Blood. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And Valve clearly haven't been doing anything, so I don't think they have much of a leg to stand on.
No. Unless they're trying to do Left 4 Dead in VR, which would never work. I mean, it would work, but imagine how expensive that would be.
And it would have to be slowed down so much.
Yeah. It would be more like those sections of Half-Life Alyx, right, where you're
shooting the shambly zombies.
Shambly zombies, yeah.
But then maybe slowing it down is good, because that was the one problem that this Back 4 Blood thing had, is that it seemed like as soon as you opened the safe room door, it was pretty full on.
Well, I mean, that was probably just for the trailer. They probably turned it up a bit more in the trailer. Because there was definitely, if it works on the same level system, there should still be plenty of quiet
moments, yeah.
I potentially like the idea of being able to, like, if they, when they got attacked by the really big one, like whether or not, like, if you go in through a bit of environment that's too small, whether it could actually follow you, and there are circumstances where it makes sense just to peg it.
I mean, technically, you can do that in Left 4 Dead. In some cases, I mean, there's definitely cases where it like locks you into an arena or whatever. But there are a couple of places where you could just be like, I don't want to fight this tank. I'm just going to go to the next section of the map.
It was weird, wasn't it? Because they had a zombie they sort of introduced as the tank, and then we're like, no, here's a bigger one. We didn't see any kind of witch equivalent.
No.
The witch was so cool. I mean, it was it was mostly cool when you managed to avoid it or whatever.
Yeah.
But then you just learn the one-shot technique, and then it's not a problem.
Yeah, that kind of undermines it. I mean, the worst was when the witch was like in a doorway, and there's nothing you could do.
Yeah. That was it's like, if the level's designed to allow the director to direct you around it, then it's cool to have a thing where you can stealth fast. But if it's just like, this is literally the only path you can go, and there's just a witch right there.
Yeah.
So, well, at least it was in that circumstance. Most of the time, you could be like, all right, everyone get ready.
Yeah. Then you go for the one shot.
Oh, good times. See if they recreate some of the magic.
Yeah.
Part of the magic. I mean, zombie films were more in at the time, right? I haven't seen any lately. That trend seems to have gone. Obviously, it comes back and forth, doesn't it? But that was like 28 days later.
I don't know if the zombie game trend ever really ended, though.
No.
There's still tons of them. And there's like plenty of things in this list that I will skip over that involve zombies in some fashion.
I guess The Walking Dead is what's carried it on, and that's
it's been a continuous background thing.
This is true. Right. I don't think they said anything about when that's coming out, though.
They said like beta soon, so
yeah,
potentially next year, I guess.
Potentially. Just a quick shout out to No Man's Sky, because it seems their redemption is complete, having now won the award for best ongoing game.
Right.
And somehow, after all this time, Sean Murray still can't manage an interview. I know he has social anxiety or whatever, but he still did a bad job.
It's like the Elon Musk of...
he did all right.
We should, I guess that makes sense as a category for us, though, does it? Best ongoing game? Do we have that one?
Well, that's our like game that we played that did come out this year.
Yeah, but we used to have it be like last year's game of this year, but maybe ongoing game is a bit cleaner.
Ongoing is designed for like, hey, what was the best sort of set of updates done to a game?
I guess, yeah.
Like, it's like community support kind of thing. Although they had an award for that as well, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe that was the ongoing. I don't know. Got a bit lost. We sort of shifted our version of best game of last year this year into just best old game that we remembered we got around to playing this year.
Yeah, but yeah.
So not limiting it to just last year.
I just think we're having a problem with all of these games that they arbitrarily qualify the year they technically come out, even though we've been playing them for years.
Well, we don't do that, but
yeah,
some people do. like the fact that Among Us won several awards in the Game Awards, despite that game, being like 2 years old, and it's just only because it had released a PC version, and then all the streamers got on it.
So it technically qualifies, yeah.
I suppose you're right. Yeah, I mean it's a good point, isn't it? I mean, like a lot of outlets have been discussing that, shifting to Game of the Year to when the game became relevant, right? When was its time to shine? And that's a hard thing. That's a hard thing to define for a lot of games. It's like PUBG's time to shine was when it first came out in early access. As it turns
that's
out.
the problem.
And things like that. And Fortnite, did it ever really come out of early access?
I mean, when was Minecraft's time to shine?
Exactly,
all the time.
Exactly, it's a tricky metric to work that way. And whereas just a straight hard date is just easy.
And also, if you're going to change that metric at this point, that means there'll be like some games that just don't exist from your perspective, because like they will have missed their time to shine, but they'll still come out after you've changed metric.
I mean, in our case, it's like we're not a big outlet, right? So in our case, it's like we can't play everything. We can't, and most outlets can't, right? But like they can cover most of the big ones, whereas we can't even do that. We cover what we're interested in. And what we fancy playing at the time. So there is an argument for us to shift potentially to a system where we, that best game of last year or best old game that we've now played, whether anything we play in the year should actually just be eligible.
Game we want to give an award to but doesn't qualify for the
year. Something like that. Yeah.
It's like you need to have Game of the Year and literal Game of the Year.
Yeah, which is just Rocket League every single year.
Well, it might not be this year.
No,
Rocket League's had some problems this year.
Some of which we'll get to later, I guess.
Potentially. Right, yeah, anyway. Shout out to No Man's Sky. We got a Dragon Age trailer.
Because that is still happening.
It's still a thing. And it's just called Dragon's Age.
It's just called something that Rob couldn't quite pronounce.
My tongue failed me. It's just called Dragon Age. They've not put a subtitle or anything on it. But then that's fine, right? Because there hasn't actually been a Dragon Age game just called Dragon Age.
I guess.
They had
but is that fine? I'm not sure that's still fine.
The Dragon Age. Yeah. Dragon Kings. I mean, it was a totally nondescript trailer, really.
Yeah.
Can't really tell anything about it. Just that, hey, Dragon Age is still a thing. Someone get hype. And then we got a game that may interest Zach, because it's an endless of the endless game.
Well, this is the thing. It's like
it was a cool trailer.
Oh, well, it's kind of cool.
The sort of alien band.
You may remember that even in a video, yes, we did make a video of it. We played a game called Dungeon of the Endless, and they're now making a game called Endless Dungeon, which is funny because that's what Dungeon of the Endless should have actually been called to start with. Because all of their games in the Endless series are like Endless something, like Endless Space and Endless Legend, and then you had Dungeon of the Endless, which didn't fit the naming scheme, and it was like, well, that's weird. But now they're actually making Endless Dungeon.
Endless Dungeon, yeah.
Except it seems to just be effectively a sequel to Dungeon of the Endless.
Kinda. They're eschewing the whole strategy element, aren't they?
Well, not the whole strategy element. Like, it sounds like there's still some when they've talked about it, it sounds like you still have like the door mechanics. Like you open a door and then that starts a wave.
Oh, I see. Right.
And there's still some deploying of turrets that you can see in the video. So there's still some of the turret-based stuff, but maybe not like so much of a building up over time kind of thing. It might just be like for that wave. So I don't know how much of it is exactly like Dungeon of the Endless, but yeah, they're basically making a sequel to that game, I suppose.
Yeah, but I don't know how much. Probably nothing of the trailer's style will come through.
Well,
you know
I mean,
what
people are
because
already
the whole band singing thing, like, just really caught my attention, and the way that trailer was structured was like, this is smartly made and seems really cool. What is it going to be? And then you actually see a bit of gameplay, and it's like, oh, it's a twin stick kind of thing.
Well,
and it's like,
is it? I don't even know. It's so
it looked a little bit twin sticky to me.
Because they said that you get like multiple characters and you can play it in multiplayer, but you can also play it in single player and like switch characters. So I have no idea how that's actually going to function. But people are already pissed that it's like, you know, it's the classic indie game problem of they've transitioned to like generic 3D models instead of really nice pixel art.
Yeah, like they haven't doubled down on what they had before and have gone a different direction. Hey, it may have been cool if they'd have sort of kept the cartoony look that they had.
Well, I mean, they've tried, but because it's generic 3D models, it just doesn't. They haven't done it well enough, probably.
I mean, I think it looked fine.
Yeah, I mean, it does look fine.
Yeah.
But the pixel art in Dungeon of the Endless was so good. Like, the
was really
lighting effects on that pixel art was ridiculous.
It was quite good, but it's in a crowded. Well, everything's crowded right now.
Well, it's another run game.
Yeah, it's another run game. Yeah. But at least they've done it before. Maybe I'm more okay with that than someone else trying to get in and be like, I know. Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, okay. Rogue Legacy 2. That one can get by because Rogue Legacy 1 was so good. Basically, I don't know what I'm talking about. Do you want some Unreal Tournament? There's a little bit of it in Warframe. Moving on.
How so?
They're just pulling in some of the guns from Unreal Tournament into Warframe with a very cheesy trailer that was like, "You have become unstoppable," and bringing in the old UT voiceover.
Nice.
I mean, it's not a UT game. It's like, I don't care.
No.
It's such a weird thing to do, though. I guess it's because, you know, Warframe and Epic are pretty close because it's an Unreal Engine game, but
Monster kill.
I don't know if they said monster kill. They might have just said double kill. I don't know. Double kill.
Yeah, but does Quake have double kill? No, it's just UT that has double kill, multi kill, ultra kill.
Oh, it might have been ultra kill. That might have been what they used.
Monster kill. And then who goes unstoppable? Is that UT or no? Is that
Yeah, no, there isn't unstoppable in UT. Unstoppable. I think at one point they introduced ludicrous as well.
Oh,
ludicrous.
Ludicrous.
Something like that.
Ludicrous speed. What's that from? That's Spaceballs, isn't it?
That's Spaceballs, yeah.
I think, and isn't that in every Tesla, right? Has
yes,
speed,
yeah. There's a mode.
Nice. Did you see going completely off topic? Did you see the SpaceX test of the Starship?
No.
Oh, it was pretty cool. I mean, it's just the latest in a series of tests. It didn't fully work, so it did explode, but it was still mostly worked. It's pretty big, and it sort of, you know, zoomed up into the sky with three engines on, gradually turned the engines off one by one, which worked fine, and then it sort of flipped over and sort of did a sort of belly flop glide down on its little weird aero surface wing things, and then at the last second it does this crazy flip over to land vertically, but it didn't quite reach zero velocity at the right point because the fuel pressure because apparently they use like separate tanks for the landing for the fuel, which makes sense so that it's not sloshing around, you know,
right,
the main tank half empty. And the pressure wasn't enough, so that to just hit. What did Elon Musk call it? RUD, rapid unplanned disassembly. So it exploded, but it was still cool. And they're getting closer with that thing, which is now called Starship. I'm a bit disappointed because originally it was called the BFR.
Right. Might be slightly harder to brand.
Which is hopefully connects to our talk of Unreal and Quake weapons.
Flat cannon.
BFR.
Yeah, it's just some of those weapons in the game now. Yay. What else we got? Vin Diesel isn't done with being in video games.
God, is he not?
So, I mean, this is one of those trailers that looks like this could be interesting, right? Up until you see what game it is.
Yeah.
Because it's like this very lengthy cinematic trailer of Vin Diesel and his tribe of people in a tropical environment, protecting them against some orc-like dudes, I guess. And then a T-Rex turns up and starts terrorizing everyone, and they run away, and then they find some sort of computer in a cave, and then they look at some sort of skyline. All quite well produced at this point. And then it says Arc 2, and you're like, oh, all right. Well, what is Arc 2 then? Are they making like a campaign-based thing in the sort of Arc environment, or is it just another survival game?
Probably just another survival game.
Which is like
they've made like 3 times already.
Yeah, but then we're like, why have all this story?
Because Vin Diesel.
Because Vin Diesel, yeah.
So Vin Diesel. Obviously,
I mean, you can just stop there.
I mean, obviously that's not his real name, right? It's a stage name, presumably, right? Vin Diesel. I mean, no one's called Diesel, are they? But I'm wondering about Vin. Is that a name, or was he thinking vehicle identification number?
I mean, almost certainly not, because I'm pretty sure that's a UK thing.
Or was he thinking about French wine?
Van Diesel.
Wine Diesel.
That doesn't sound like the nicest kind of wine. Vin. Is Vin a name? I guess
It's Vincent. It's short for
Vincent.
Vincent.
Vinny. Yeah.
Okay. But so he's like, I'm going to be Vincent Diesel. My name's actually Mark Sinclair.
Is that actually his name?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
His name's
yes, so
Mark.
it is.
Oh, hi,
I mean,
Mark.
is there any kind of like actual like background as to why he called himself Vin Diesel?
I don't know.
It's probably one of those things, right, where there was already a Mark Sinclair or something on the actors register, right? And it was just like,
it was probably he was like, let me when I'm auditioning for Fast and the Furious, let me come up with a name that coincidentally is real suitable.
It just
No,
says
before that. It was way before that.
Yeah, it just says he took the name Vin Diesel when he was working as a club bouncer on this listing.
Well, I guess that makes sense if you want like a way more hardcore name
hard
than Mark.
name, yeah. Yeah, Mr. T kind of thing. Apparently his stepfather was called Irving Vincent, so maybe that came into play.
Okay.
There you go. Bit of
I
Vin Diesel
discovered-
biography for you.
I don't know if I told you guys, but I was doing some Duolingo French lessons a while ago, and I realised that my favourite guitarist's stage name is a pun, which I didn't realise before, because he's called, from the Smiths, he's called Johnny Marr. Johnny Marr. But Johnny Marr means I'm fed up.
Oh, okay.
In French. So he's like got a depressing stage name. Oh, Johnny Marr.
I'm fed up.
Johnny Marr.
I'm playing for the Smiths.
Yeah. Heaven knows I'm miserable now.
I sound like Marvin from Hitchhiker's Guide.
I've got a pain in all the diodes down my left side.
It's pretty good. So yeah, Arc 2, Vin Diesel. Get your deep voice on. But Arc 2 is probably going to suck because it's... I don't know. It's a hugely popular game, I guess, but there is nothing about it that appeals. Which means I'm probably not going to watch the Arc animated series either. But then again, I might, because it's got Russell Crowe, Vin Diesel, and David Tennant in it, amongst a other list of people that I can't remember.
Yeah, but having good actors doesn't save a good script. Bad script necessarily.
No.
Then, what story are you going to tell? It's like dinosaurs fighting. I guess, but there's no story to that.
Someone trying to survive.
It's a story for the ages.
The Vin Diesel Arc 2 trailer has some of the backstory of the Arc, where it's it's not in the past, it's in the future, and all that stuff.
Yeah, because it's a crashed Arc of some description.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know there's only two stories that get told over and over: the hero's journey and dinosaurs fighting.
Yeah.
Forevermore. And the T-Rex eventually becomes the good guy.
Probably. I mean, that's how art works, I guess. Tame them.
That's how all of Jurassic World works. Jurassic Park and all that. T-Rex is a good guy now.
Only because there was more bad dinosaurs. You gotta have dinosaurs fighting. You can't just have generic good guy T-Rex fighting humans. Except, they fight humans anyway.
You probably could. Yeah.
But not because they're good.
So there's that. Elite Dangerous Odyssey had a trailer which, used the somewhat completely obvious ground control to Major Tom.
Yeah.
Space Oddity thing from Bowie. It's like all right, little on the nose. You could have done better than that. However, I couldn't help but think watching that trailer, is Elite Dangerous actually about to out Star Citizen Star Citizen?
I mean, yes. Literally. They're releasing everything that Star Citizen that keeps saying they're going to do, but the Elite Dangerous is actually doing it.
Because I knew they were going to do planet landings, and I knew they were going to do wandering about, and I knew they were going to do vehicles and all that stuff, and I knew they were going to do interior space stations and all that. I didn't realize they were going to do the whole shooter aspect to it as well.
Oh, really? Oh,
I mean, what else are you going to do when you're on foot? It was the same situation when they first started working on, human avatars in Eve. It was just like, what are you going to do with them? Well, eventually there's going to be some kind of shooter mechanics. Of course, that never happened in Eve, but that was one of the original parts of that plan.
What has even happened to Star Citizen?
Nothing. It's continuing to do exactly what it's doing.
It's apparently still in development. It still exists for all intents and purposes. It's just
they're still making roadmaps for their roadmaps.
Yeah.
I mean, what's it like to work on that thing? You pour so much effort into building some spaceships or some module of it, like the shooting module or something, and then it never does anything.
Easy money, I bet. There's probably no deadlines
because it's like a giant pyramid scheme, right?
Yeah.
It's just annoying that I played it, one of the alpha parts of it at some point, and it's like, this is technically a functional game on some level, just like it was a very tiny segment of that game. So the work does actually exist. It's not a complete, vaporware.
It's not vaporware, yeah. Well, partially vaporware.
Yeah.
But they just can't, get their asses together to make a complete product.
I mean, how big a team do you reckon they actually have? Is it just is it actually just two guys or something? It's Chris Roberts and some other dude.
I don't think Chris Roberts actually works on it, though.
No, he just enjoys the mansion. With Star Citizen written on the side of it.
Do you remember that console years ago that was total vaporware? What was it called? Phantom or something?
Yes.
Literal
vapor.
That was
you could argue that the
I thought that Ouya was going to be one of those, but it actually came out. But obviously, it was
there's that Atari console.
Yeah.
But that could be another one. Because was the probability of that seeing the light of day seems pretty low. Even if it does have Tommy Tallarico supporting it.
If you bought an Ouya, you're an idiot.
I know someone with an Ouya.
Okay, well, it's probably worth a bit of money now, isn't it? It's probably like a curiosity thing.
Well, they weren't at the time. They weren't actually that bad in media players either. Because we hadn't really gotten into the HD era that much yet. True. And hey, there was some fun little Android games on it. And don't forget, without the Ouya, we might not have had oh god, what's that thing called? You fire arrows at people, one shot kill game. Pixel, made by Matt Makes Games. I can remember everything but the name.
I think I know what you mean.
Not Castle Storm, that's something else.
Yeah.
Anyway, really good 4-player, combat game.
I think we probably could have had that without the Ouya.
Yeah, but he made it for the Ouya first.
Yes, but if you assume that the Ouya had not actually come out, I'm sure he would have eventually put that onto Steam anyway.
It's the guy that made Celeste, isn't it? It's that guy.
Yeah, you can kind of tell from the
yeah.
outside.
Towerfall Ascension, yeah.
Towerfall, yeah, that's the one.
Okay, that's what you were searching for. Okay, cool.
Yes, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and Celeste. Yeah, it was it was an Android thingy, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, basically.
Have we talked on the podcast? Did we talk last time about Apple Silicon?
We may have mentioned it
because I've been reading about it, and it's very interesting. Yeah, I know this is a bit off topic from the Game Awards, but like, and of course, slightly off topic from games, technically, right? But like, what do you know about Apple Silicon?
Very little, other than that it's in their current products and it has a compatibility problem, obviously.
Yeah, so they just launched 2 laptops with Apple Silicon, which is full on.
It's all the M1 chip.
The M1 chip, which is a system on a chip ARM architecture for a personal computer, right, rather than a tablet. And so, of course, because it's a system on a chip, you can't replace the memory because there's no motherboard.
Sure.
That's not how it works. It's a system on a chip, just like the consoles, right? Or just like an iPad. Yeah. It's an iPad with a keyboard, right? It's unbelievably fast, and it's double the battery life, right, compared to an Intel chip.
Well,
so
Intel's without being too anti-Intel here, it's like, yeah, the Intel chips have never been great for battery life.
No
experience. It's like they've tried, but they've not been as strong, I think, as AMD's battery performance.
So obviously, there's going to be compatibility problems, and everyone thought, oh, it's like the usual thing where, you want a few iterations on it before it gets good. But if you're a normal person, it seems like so they've brought out 2 laptops. One's the MacBook Air, and then they've got the small MacBook Pro. They've actually got the exact same chip on, so they have exactly the same specs. The only difference is that the Pro has a fan, so it has active cooling, so it doesn't throttle down when it gets hot. It can actually cool itself, so it can go right for longer doing intensive stuff. But it's actually the same chip. And I think if you're a normal person and you're not trying to do dev work or whatever, get that MacBook Air and you're pretty much set. I don't think there's much incompatible, because their like translation layer apparently is already good enough for like Photoshop and stuff, because they haven't quite got their Adobe with the moving to the new architecture. That'll be next year, but apparently their translation layer is pretty amazing, and it's very interesting. I've been reading about how it works, and it is quite clever. But it's like a meta problem for the industry, is like, because Apple are obviously the biggest company. I think they're the biggest company on the stock exchange, aren't they? So
they're like the biggest company in the world.
In the world,
like
yeah. Publicly traded, anyway. There might be some private oil company that's bigger. But,
perhaps, yeah.
But they've poured their resources into this, and it looks like Intel, and to a certain extent AMD, are kind of screwed, because their whole business model is to sell CPUs, right? But this system on a chip approach, right? So that if you're a PC manufacturer, you put that together with memory and all the other parts to make a PC, and then you sell that. But because Apple control the whole product, they can put everything on this system of a chip style and use this ARM architecture, and you can't really beat it. So they're and I wonder what it means for consoles as well, because consoles are now AMD systems on a chip.
That's the more interesting side of this is the console side, because hey, the walled garden of Apple is always going to have problems. It's always going to have people like not wanting to do that, because PC build. The whole point of a PC build is to have a system that does exactly what you want and not be beholden to anyone
exactly
to hold you back, or or to hold yourself back, depending on your skill level.
Yeah, indeed.
But yeah, so I don't think it kills the PC at all. I don't think it really changes all that. I don't think it all. It may push things that way, but hey, you're right. The consoles are already system on a chip AMD designs.
Yeah,
AMD could just put that in a laptop.
But that's the thing. They're x86. That's the thing that's different, right?
Which means you get Windows.
Yeah, exactly. Which is
fine.
But it's just slower. It's just
But Windows has far, to get into the old argument, Windows is a far more flexible platform for the majority of people.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just in terms of like computing, if you do extract away like the operating system and stuff, then there's just a problem like for the future. I don't know how they'll come back at it, but basically they've got something that'll be faster, cheaper, and better battery life, and there's no real way to come back. So we'll have to see what happens. But it doesn't seem like you can fix x86 to get to that level of performance that you can get with that ARM architecture.
I don't know. I'm throwing my skepticism out there on this one. I think it's a step. Obviously, the consoles have proven you can do quite a lot with an SoC architect. Of anything.
I'm sure there'll be,
but there's a huge amount of fallbacks as well. There are limitations. You can't upgrade. You can't do any of this stuff.
Yes, you can't upgrade.
That will be problematic for.
Yeah, it's true.
For some applications, it's like I don't see these turning up as server farms, for instance. I don't see these turning up in.
Well, for servers are going for like massively parallel ARM, right? So you get an ARM chip that has like 128 cores on it for servers. So that's the way that the cloud computing is going, because then you can handle. They're all low clock speed like individually, but you can handle like hundreds, thousands and thousands of connections, right?
For clouds, but not local servers.
No,
I mean, that's
local.
not. Yeah, it's not quite the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
I wouldn't get all fanboy about it now. It's like, it's good. I'm not going to lie. I can't dispute.
I mean,
that,
I can't get one.
But I don't think it changes the industry particularly yet.
I think it will, but we'll have to see what happens. But for me, like because I need to run Docker or whatever, so I can't get an ARM chip currently. And they haven't done the MacBook Pro for with the full size MacBook Pro yet. So that'll be like middle of next year or later. But it does pose a problem for like the industry for like normal laptops and for like normal people. But we'll have to see what effect it has on games.
I guess what I don't want to happen in any of this is forced obsolescence.
Yeah,
it's all it is it's another step towards people like Apple and manufacturers to suddenly go, we're not supporting this device anymore. Screw you.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I absolutely loathe it with a passion because it's not only bad for the consumer, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for Android
is infamous for that, right?
Well, exactly. Any kind of phone, any kind of thing. I mean, Android's actually pretty decent about it. Like a lot of its backwards support is pretty great. You're never forced to update. And app developers are free to support whatever platform they want. They can go back as far as you like. You just have to put the legwork in, as far as I'm aware. But I just it scares me. I don't want any of that to happen.
It's definitely a weird, brave new world. I don't know.
It's not brave. It's corporate greed.
Well, but in terms of like advances in computing, if you take that out, like as devices or whatever, this is what the consoles have been doing for years, and now the laptop or whatever normal computers are going to start doing it. Like to be, I mean, obviously consoles, but also phones and tablets, right? But now, if it's computers as well, that's obviously the trend. And AMD presumably are in a better place than Intel, right?
I would expect, yeah.
Because they've just come back with Ryzen and stuff, but they have better graphics. So if they did, because Intel's integrated graphics is notoriously unbelievably shit, right?
Yep. Although they're supposedly making strides on that, there was some announcement relatively recently that they were pushing forward with something, but I don't know the detail on that. But and also Intel seem to be a bit panicky right now as they're throwing shade at AMD and throwing statistics around that aren't really the whole picture.
I think they're in trouble, Intel.
Yeah. Which 2 years ago I wouldn't have said would have been a concern. But
we'll see. But it does seem like we're just starting a new console cycle. But I think, it could be that by the middle of the cycle, or if you were to do it now, would you choose x86? I guess I don't know.
I mean, yes, because I want Windows. And it's that simple with me. It's like where Windows is, I am, because of the compatibility.
Yeah.
And the flexibility that I use. It's like, unless... Yeah, it's one of those things, right? It's the same with everything. We're waiting for the day where PC... I mean, it happens periodically, I guess, but we're waiting for the day where PCs aren't going to be compatible with themselves. If you get what I mean. It's like you can go back almost as far as you want on a PC and everything still works. Yes, you now have to emulate DOS to some degree. Windows 95 and 98 stuff, if you really want to go back that far, is tricky.
Yeah.
But almost anything just runs on Windows still.
It's true.
As it ever was.
Convert back to 32-bit or whatever.
Yeah, which is fantastic. And it's like, and as long as they can keep that going on whatever architecture they move to, then everyone's happy.
Yeah, they'll have to have the equivalent kind of translation layer stuff. Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, I don't know what it'll mean for consoles, because they don't have to worry about that, right? Unless, I suppose.
Well, they kind of do now.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole backwards compatibility push for Xbox it's no small feat.
That's true.
Although they've done a hell of a job, but yeah, you're right, they're still in x86 land, so emulating the bone isn't a problem. They've still had to do some work to, well, whatever they've done to emulate original Xbox and 360.
That is cool, though.
It's quite impressive.
I mean, OG Xbox games haven't been able to play them very well for quite a while.
No, I think there are some emulators that can now do some OG Xbox stuff. It's some, but it's still pretty limited. Basically, it's a Pentium 3, and you're trying to emulate a Pentium 3 and an NVIDIA chip, and
yeah,
but they were customized like in weird ways that no one really knows.
That's mad. It's crazy.
Yeah, both exciting, but let's hold fire on the optimism just yet. It could all go sour.
I mean, it's like a compatibility thing is the main thing, right? It's just like, because I was thinking, like, if just for my computing for work, that I should get, like, because I've never bought a Mac. I just have ones from work. But like, if I'm ever going to get one, maybe I should get the last Intel one before they switch over. And then I saw how insane the right out of the gate the M1 chips are, and it's like, nope, hold fire. Got to wait until these ones get good now.
Yeah, well, give them a couple of iterations.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there'll be something special. But that sort of stuff makes sense in Mac land, right? Mac has always been sort of separate. It's always been walled garden. It's always sort of thing. They can do whatever the hell they want.
That's true.
Fine.
But it hasn't given them a big advantage in the past. Like, in fact, they had to switch from PowerPC to Intel, right? And then it's basically apples to apples comparison. Although they control their OS, like, really, like, you can get a faster PC than a Mac for cheaper, right? And you have been able to for years, right?
Yeah.
But
I guess we have to see how the prices of these things change over time.
Yeah, it's weird. Because I was like, oh, I liked Intel Macs because they were like compatible, right? It's like it was so good that they switched away from PowerPC and actually got with the program, whatever. And then when I heard they were going away from it again, I was like, and turning the work laptops into basically iPads, I was like, oh, for God's sake, that's going to be rubbish. Turns out, no.
So what else is weird? That Meat Boy game's coming out.
Because it still hasn't managed to somehow.
Super Meat Boy takes
forever. I mean, if you call your game Forever, you're just inviting comparisons with Duke Nukem.
Yeah, you really are.
But everyone already agrees.
December 23rd.
Everyone already agrees that that's not as good as original Meat Boy because of how they've changed the systems.
Really?
Well, it's got like a combat mechanic now, hasn't it?
Well, it's because it's more like
it's an infinite run.
It's sort of a runner, and it's like it's more like you're not actually directly controlling Meat Boy as much as you are like hitting the QTEs almost.
Right. That doesn't sound. I'm sure it's probably good, right? Though.
I mean, it's probably fine. It's probably just not as good as the original people.
I mean, what's the story with this? Is it made by? Because it's clearly not made by the original Team Meat anymore, right? Because they kind of split and started doing their own things, or
I think it is made by some of them.
or is it all one of them? Because there's only two of them in the original, but
yeah,
and Danny B on music, but
it's just taking too long to come out. It's like at the time when they first announced it, the runner thing hadn't been done so much, but now it has. And then Rob can be annoyed.
run-based games. They might. I really don't know anything about it. Maybe it's just called Forever and it has a runner mode, but that has the levels still.
I don't think so, because I think it was intended for phones originally as well.
But then, how does the whole like replay thing work? Do you just do a run and then it loads a different level? Is it randomized, or can you just keep playing the same level over and over again?
Oh, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's like I think there are levels, but I think it's more like maybe calling it a runner is not exactly the right term. It's more like an auto runner, not an infinite runner.
Oh,
right.
right, got you. So you're always at pace. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, like that Mario game, right? Well, I guess that wasn't even auto either.
Yeah, it was kind of auto.
It kind of was.
Yeah. You're thinking more like runner. Like BitTrip Runner.
Yeah, I guess that would be the much more useful comparison for a runner game. The one that's literally called Runner.
I know what you mean. Runner kind of like implies those infinite ones like Robot Unicorn Attack or whatever.
Jetpack Joyride.
Yeah. Or Sonic Runner, whatever it was called.
Hmm.
There was the Sonic one. It was 3D. What else we got? Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. A VR thing.
Isn't that
looked really bad? I mean, I know that you have to tone things down a little bit for VR, like in order to make it.
Galaxy's Edge is the Disney World. What's it called? Disneyland.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, area. Star Wars area. Yeah.
So Tales from Disneyland, then.
Yeah, it must be a tie-in too.
I didn't think it looked good at all. It showed really badly.
I mean, it showed about as well as most VR games do.
I guess
you could never make that look that good because of the way like human beings move their head.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it kind of looks bad from that perspective. I mean, like the visual fidelity didn't look very hot, and I don't know what it was running on, whether it was PSVR or something like that. In which case, it's forgivable. But
well, I mean, again, that's like you're not even actually seeing it. You're seeing like half the resolution or whatever, probably because it's one eye, or however they've pulled that footage out.
Yeah, if you want to talk about resolution, then yeah, sure. But like the fidelity of the effects was low as well. It's not like it was high texture detail or quality lighting or anything like that. Which could also be said about EA's other VR thing they showed, which was the Medal of Honor game that Respawn are making, which showed a lot better. I'll give it that, but it's still, visual fidelity was pretty low.
That's just Medal of Honor. They haven't made one of those for so long.
Oh, what? They just nicked the original assets. Do you want to talk about Rocket League Season 2?
I mean, we could do that later, but we could do it now, I guess. Because in a surprising turn of events, on the positive side of this, Season 2 started immediately after Season 1. Which is a positive if you don't like giant undefined gaps like they used to have, but probably a negative for the developers now working in Epic's crunch culture.
Yeah, probably. And at least the content this time round seems all right.
Marginally better than Season 1.
It's music and raid themed.
Yes, but like
you can get a booster that sounds like a fat bass line.
I don't. Yes, the boosts sound kind of annoying, especially some of them, and the level isn't as cool as you'd hope. It's
the level's all right.
It's all right
on that level,
but it's just like Also, it kind of has. I don't know if it's exactly the same problem as Aquadome used to have, but it's like because the cage is fully transparent unless the ball is near it, it's much harder to judge distance and stuff.
Yeah, that's annoying. I'll give you that. That is quite irritating.
And obviously, being a new stage, you're just not used to like reading the floor texture for position, which know, is something you wouldn't even necessarily know that you're doing most of the time, but you do.
You definitely are. And they sort of borrow the. I think they borrowed a lot of the aesthetic from what they did for like some of the screens around the rim at the top of hoops, and the
aesthetic
and the old VR levels, whatever they were called, the labs. Or
the
whatever.
aesthetic is quite a lot like Rocket Labs in general, which again just makes you miss Rocket Labs. Give us the Rocket Labs playlist. God damn you!
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
But then on the negative side, because I guess this will be my moment to talk about Rocket League rather than when I've been playing Rocket League. But negative side, I get to complain about apparently the thing that is just what I complain about now: UI problems.
I noticed I could not select doubles mode in casual. It just wouldn't let me. You move the cursor over there, and it would disappear somewhere else.
That's not the problem that I was referencing, but that is a problem.
It would like highlight for a split second, and then like it would be like nothing would be selected. And I'm like, where's the cursor gone?
No, the problem that I'm referencing is that just like the previous patch, the Season 1 patch, they've continued. Whoever's doing the UI development has unlearned the fact that you shouldn't change UI flow unless it's super necessary.
What have they done now?
Well, for some reason, at the end of a match now, it automatically highlights Party Up, a feature which no one uses or wants.
Yes, it does do that. Yeah, that's quite annoying.
And it's doubly annoying. So it highlights Party Up, and so what you'd usually be doing is you'd just be like mashing A through all your drops, and then you'd keep pressing A, and it'd be find new match, and that would be what you want. But now it's like, oh no, I've accidentally offered to join a party that I don't want, because why would anyone ever use that feature?
Yeah, I mean, someone did do that with me the other night. We were having a pretty decent run on drop shot.
Sure,
we partied up.
But like, that's just not it. There's no reason for it to be the default option for sure. Like
I know. I want it to just be find next. Yeah, so you can mash through like you always did.
But then it's not. It's they've actually screwed more people than it even seemed at first glance. Because at first I was like, well, they've screwed people who just mash through to find new match. But what they've actually done is they haven't just had it be highlighted. They also haven't moved it out of the middle of the list. So if you were, say, a person who always goes into training after finishing a match, they've screwed you as well, because it highlights the middle of the list and training is up the list instead of down the list now. So now if your muscle memory is to always go to training, you're accidentally going into the options menu.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm not too against. I'm a little bit against them making Party Up the one that they highlight. I'm not too against them changing the flow to some degree, but
it's just a completely unnecessary change, though. There's no reason for them to have done it.
I mean, they kind of got rid of most of the prompts as well. They cut down on that, didn't they? Because you don't get so many.
There's no confirmation prompts really any longer.
No
things. The
challenges are kind of their own little thing now, aren't they? As well, so those aren't ticking off.
And they also, I didn't even realize in that menu, they've also got rid of the save replay button and moved it to just click left stick, which is
that's a weird choice.
In some ways better, but in some ways again unnecessarily changing UI flow for no reason.
Yeah, but click left stick as a save replay option. That's just a weird choice.
Well, it's like click right stick to hide the scoreboard, so they were already using stick clicking in that.
I mean, that's more
anyway.
acceptable because it's like it's a transient thing, but an action to confirm the saving of a replay. That's a bit odd.
Also, speaking of that, they've even screwed that up, because now when you actually remember to scroll up the menu and hit find new match instead of accidentally partying, it pops up the actual searching dialogue that you have to then back out of and then click the right stick to hide the scoreboard if you even want to watch the replay. Like you actually have to press A and then B and then click the right stick to actually just hide, whereas before it was all in the same menu.
And I noticed that the whole this comes back to your original complaints that the old system for having searching just hang out in the top right no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. It's just
kind of
they've just
and
continued
that
to
was
fuck up the UI totally unnecessarily and make weird decisions that don't make any sense. I mean, the only reason that you would put like automatically highlight party up is because they want to push for that. But why would anyone want to push for that? Like, what is there? They're trying to make the community better by making people get in parties, except what they're actually doing is make the community pissed off when they accidentally end up in parties all the time. It's like that. It's not helping the problem that they're trying to solve.
Is there like a benefit to it, like in Overwatch, where it's partying up gives you like an XP bonus? Or...
Well, there is if you have the Rocket Pass, because of course there's some of the Rocket Pass levels unlock extra XP while you're in a party or whatever. But just like, no.
But just no.
Stupid decisions.
Yeah, they're not. They're, like you said, totally unnecessary.
So that's Rocket League.
I might be back in. Is all I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, all those complaints, but hey, this
all
Rocket
you needed
Pass
was
seems all right. I need basically that's all you need is some fat, dirty bass. And then there's that Mass Effect teaser.
Because apparently Mass Effect is also happening as well as Dragon Age.
Yeah. And it's just called Mass Effect right now.
What can we glean from this? It's back in the Milky Way.
Yeah, I guess.
They're going to pretend that Andromeda never happened.
I think so.
Is that Liara?
I mean, I think that's what they're implying, but it's hard to tell with the Asari.
Yeah.
But that sounds quite racist, doesn't it?
That's all right. I mean, Ashley Williams was pretty space racist, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really to pull apart from this too much, other than they're investigating what looked like some. But the thing is like they looked at like an N7 logo. That could be anyone's N7 logo, right? It's not just Shepard that was N7.
No.
So is this sequel or prequel, or what's going on?
We don't know. Well, I imagine if
Mass Effect 3 will be canonical.
Will be canon. Yeah.
Or is this just a Shadow Broker spin-off? Or...
I don't think they do a spin-off. They're going to do full-on main sequence. Let's try and rescue this franchise.
They definitely could jam in a side story that happens during one or between the other games, like what the Shadow Broker theoretically was, except it didn't really.
We've always said that the Mass Effect universe is, in theory, big enough and fleshed out enough that they could do whatever the hell they want in it, right? A bit like Star Wars. They could just they could make stories that don't have to follow the Reapers or the Shepard saga or anything like that. It's rich enough that you could go there and have a space adventure. You just have to not make it bad. I'm looking at you, Andromeda.
Yeah, I like that universe. They did really well to build that universe.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's constructed out of a whole bunch of tropes, but that's fine. That's cool. So is Star Wars.
Well, I mean, Star Wars is the trope now, I guess. But
yeah,
original Star Wars wouldn't have had it, would it? Was it tropey even do you reckon, when it was created?
Well, it's a trope of not sci-fi converted into sci-fi. That's the whole point of Star Wars.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like adventure serial / Hidden Fortress, right? Which is the Kurosawa film, and converted into. But they added, obviously, there's sci-fi tropes added into Star Wars, right? Like there's literal Dune references in the original Star Wars, right? Where they're talking about spice, and there's
spice mines that you then get to drive through.
Spice mines of
in the episode 1 racer. And that's the TGAs. Do you know who won best game? Do you know who were predicted to win best game and who totally won best game?
Did they win in almost every other category?
They won in a few others, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need to say it.
The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Despite my reservations.
Part 2. I mean, I suppose the question is, what else won other than The Last of Us Part 2?
I mean, was it Hades got some stuff?
Yeah, that's probably an interesting one.
Yeah, that punched above its weight, really. Not that we've played Hades, but, it seems to have gone down pretty well.
Although
I
giving
guess
that best indie game when it's like Supergiant, who is that indie?
I mean, technically, they're not really published or beholden onto a major publisher.
Yeah.
So technically, they're indie.
I'm just saying they've probably got scope to have higher production values than most indie games.
Sure. It's not like they've really put out a bad game.
Among Us was the real indie one for this.
Yeah, I mean, that picked up 2 awards, including Best Multiplayer Game, right?
Yeah. And then somehow Animal Crossing, the only thing it won was Best Family Game, even though there's the whole, save debacle of Animal Crossing that prevents you from actually really playing it with your family.
Yeah. Best family friendly game.
I mean, sure, it's definitely family friendly. It's not necessarily friendly for families.
But then Fall Guys was in that category as well, and you can't play that multiplayer unless you've got multiple consoles.
Yeah,
it's like it depends on your definition of family.
Because I think Animal Crossing was in like one of the other categories that was more specifically like multiplayer, right? I forget what it was, but like when they said that, I instantly thought of like, but you can't. It's literally have this one save file that everyone gets crammed into, and it doesn't actually work as that kind of game.
Yeah, you've all got to work together.
Is Animal Crossing a best family game because it gives you a family when you're stuck on your own in lockdown?
Well, I mean, that is kind of part of the reason.
It's a dark take.
I mean, I think it's helped a lot of people this year.
Yeah, that's why it was in Game of the Years. I mean, not really.
It's because there's nothing else came out. Nintendo didn't put anything out anything else.
And speaking of which, there wasn't any kind of hint of Breath of the Wild 2 or Metroid Prime 4, like was somewhat rumoured.
Not even a hint. But then it was sort of. I mean, the Smash announcement was somewhat inevitable because Nintendo, the Smash at least, has supported the TGAs in the past.
That did get confirmed before the actual show, so people did know.
Did it? Okay, yeah. But Nintendo had already sort of said they weren't really going to announce anything else.
But now it's going to make it even more like you're going to feel even more the lack of like a Nintendo Direct in January because they don't do Nintendo Direct any longer.
Well, I reckon that's nonsense. I reckon they'll go back to some short form, maybe not a long form Direct. Not that they were long in the first place, but we'll get something. Probably another Nindies or whatever.
Yeah, but that's not what you want. You want the one where they talk about Breath of the Wild and Metroid Prime.
Well, they'll do one of those deep dives, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, it'd be like the month it comes out. That's not building hype. That's not telling us that it's actually going to have a release date.
I'll tell you what I was mildly annoyed about in this, like in the fighting game category, right? They brought back like the kind of ultimate editions of fighting games.
Well, I was
like
Mortal
Kombat 11
category.
I mean, Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate one, and like that came out last year or the year before, and it's just like, okay, Ultimate is a fairly big expansion, like the whole extra. Was it Ultimate or is it? No, it was Aftermath, wasn't it? The whole expansion bit where it's like, hey, there's a new story bit. That was kind of the big deal. Like, why Ultimate of all things? You could have filled that space with them's fighting herds.
They could, I get. Did that?
And One Punch Man nobody really likes. Like, that was on this list, wasn't it? Like, isn't One Punch Man kind of a bad fighting game? What a weird category.
Well, they definitely did have to stretch to fill it, regardless of what was actually made it on there.
Well, it was like the racing, strategy and sim category, wasn't it? It was a bit of a weird one this year because it had like Gears Tactics going up against Flight Simulator.
Yeah,
bizarre. I mean, Flight Sim took it.
But definitely over Gears Tactics.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played Flight Sim, but I'll agree with that.
Actually, like, maybe that is Game of the Year, Flight Simulator 2020, if you count it as a game.
I mean, it kind of is. Yeah. I mean, they had a trailer here at the TGAs, like saying the Xbox version's probably a bit further off than I think anyone expected, but hey, it's still coming. Like, its Series X copy is coming summer next year.
That's cool.
Best soundtrack was Final Fantasy VII as well, which I think is kind of cheeky.
Yeah, that is a bit lazy.
I mean, they did do a good job of like
yeah.
updating
They have done a fantastic job with it. Like I've listened to bits of it for sure. It's a good take on it, but it's like, hey, it's kind of it's Final Fantasy VII. They did that already.
Yeah. So
it's almost like the best graphics category, but for sound.
Yeah, I guess.
So another slightly weird year, I guess.
Yeah, weird on the award side, but then it always is. That's awards, right? Our opinions aren't going to match those that are voting. That's the nature. Everyone loves opinions. Right, other news. What else is going on? Not a great deal. Cyberpunk. Do you want to talk about Cyberpunk at all?
I mean, yeah, briefly. The reaction to it or whatever.
Yeah.
Also, the reaction to Giant Bomb's reaction is fucking typical. Jeff Gerstmann. Anyway.
Well, I haven't watched any of that. But my takeaway from it, from how I'm reading the impressions, are maybe wait a bit.
Yeah. Oh,
maybe now's not the time.
Definitely wait. I mean, it was already releasing in a weird way across generations. Like,
yeah,
and just when really powerful ray tracing graphics cards have come out there and that are ludicrously expensive. Like, it's a strange time even on PC, let alone consoles.
I mean, the PC version supports all that, though, right? The ray tracing stuff.
Yeah, it supports it all, but like most people can't run that, right? And,
yeah, sure.
And yeah.
But even so, the current standing is that hey, that PC version is the better game than what you can get on consoles.
Oh,
right
yeah.
now. And it's like, okay, the console versions haven't come out for PS5 and Series X yet. We're talking last gen stuff right now.
Yes.
So hold off. Hold off judging it for now. But hey, most people have got a PS4 or an Xbone.
Yeah.
And those seem like shonky places to play the game.
Oh, yeah.
Like frame rate all over the place. One of the most interesting threads I found on Twitter around it was this conversation around the graphical fidelity of running what would be the Xbox One X version on a Series X, and how wildly variable the graphics quality is even there.
Yeah.
So there's they've done a little bit of a given you a little bit of a leg up on Series X, because there's an option to unlock the frame rate that you can just turn on, and you'll then get an up to 60 FPS experience on your Series X, which you definitely cannot do on the others.
Yeah.
So hey, that's something. However, there's just you could take screenshots of the exact same scene taken by different players on the exact same hardware, and they look so amazingly different. Like they'll look terrible in some screenshots and look fantastic in others, and it's just, what is going on? Like, I don't quite understand it. It's the one that I caught on was, there's a scene near the start of the game we were talking to someone called Dexter, I think, and he's like one of the like a substantial character or something like that, and you're just sat in the car with him. And yeah, some of the graphics from that, like, there's no lighting at all. It just looks like totally flat and static, whereas others are all dark and moody with lens flare. And this is all apparently running on Series X and all coming from the same location. And it's I'm assuming it's a time of day thing, right? Is my guess. It's like perhaps the time of day you have that interaction changes how that scene looks, and that sometimes it just goes very badly wrong.
I mean,
but that's just one of the things on top of what is a cavalcade of bugs and glitches. And
the bugs are hilarious. I mean, that's great.
Well,
just so that we can enjoy the fun of. I just watched one and it was fantastic.
DJ Kipling has a good glitch clip up on Twitch right now.
Oh,
I suggest you watch that. That's pretty funny.
The glitches. I mean, because the thing is, when Red Dead Redemption 1 came out, that had all kinds of crazy glitches, but like they did, that is a great game in the end, right?
Yeah, and it was, the glitches were mostly limited to the PS3 version.
They were, yeah. You got that T-pose people models, but they were swapped out with like birds in the sky and stuff like that.
Yeah, the best one is the model swaps.
Yeah,
it's so bizarre that it would just swap the model out, but the rigging still works.
Yeah, the rigging worked. I mean, there's some crazy stuff like that going on in Cyberpunk. What's getting to me, I think, is that like I don't know. I don't know how Rockstar did it with Grand Theft Auto, with the physics being just like correct everywhere. I mean, obviously it freaks out sometimes, but in general, nothing clips through anything really badly in Grand Theft Auto, even though it's this giant city. And that seems to happen all over the place in Cyberpunk. And it's just as soon as something clips through something, or like bobbles, or like, you know, plays the crash sound effect when it's halfway through something or something, it just takes you completely out of it. And it's like it's not a cohesive world, basically.
There's definitely enough to throw you. Like the I was surprised when I was watching Digital Foundry's PS4 breakdown that there's one, you know, they were talking primarily about the frame rate tanking, and fair enough, it tanks. And they were driving down this specific like alleyway that causes like significant trouble. But I was watching as people were diving out of the way of them. Quite a few of them dived through a building.
Through things,
and it's just like, okay, we still haven't solved that yet, apparently.
Well,
except we
seem
have
to do a good job at it, right? And I don't know what they have going for them. I think maybe they just have different priorities in what they build. So they must have started with the physics, a bit like Half-Life 2 did, right? When they built Grand Theft Auto 4 and just said, okay, we've got Euphoria, this is the basis of everything, and like, you know, we're going to build a whole complex world, but the basis is going to be like when a car wheel goes onto a curb, it's going to go actually up onto the curve, and you know, the suspension is going to go down, and it's going to feel grounded.
Get a little bit of a bounce,
and it's going to feel grounded in reality. And it seems like Cyberpunk, wasn't their approach.
Well, it was also in an age where focusing on that was somewhat more forgivable, right? Grand Theft Auto 4 and to some extent 5, right? Those were not performant games.
No. I mean, they ran at sort of just about 30 on the 360, didn't they? I think.
Yeah,
but they weren't performant. I mean, not by modern standards.
No, they definitely weren't. As soon as you got in a car, like it was kind of accepted that hey, things are going to be a little bit sluggish now,
especially in 4.
And hey, Cyberpunk does the same thing. So it's like there is an argument that maybe we should be a little bit lenient with it. But it's like it doesn't mean that it's as you said, the physicsy side of it doesn't seem to hold up either. So it's not like they're losing power because they're simulating more. It's just odd.
Think what I'm finding is that I like the cyberpunk aesthetic, and like, I'm looking at screenshots, and some of them look beautiful with all the ray tracing stuff. But actually, when I look at some of them compared to screenshots of Witcher 3 on high settings, so I'm like, yeah, but that looks beautiful. Like, I almost think that looks better, even though it's a totally different environment and it's all natural. I kind of think
it must
maybe
be a hugely different challenge.
Absolutely.
For the engine.
But maybe they just a bit better at doing the big green medieval world than the big city. I don't know.
Maybe but then let's not forget this isn't the first time CD Projekt Red have had this in one of their games, right? The Witcher 3 was kind of a mess when it came out.
Yeah, that's true.
But they supported the heck out of it over the years.
Yeah, so it's good.
So
certainly, improve.
I mean, I wholeheartedly believe it will improve. Like, I don't think they're going to let their biggest project to date just wallow in inadequacy. It's just they're gonna definitely do. We're going to see a lot of work to it, and we're going to see a lot of improvements. It's just like if you were hyped for this, maybe don't play it right now unless you're playing on a high end PC, and even then you're going to hit some trouble.
And then my problem is I was never really that hype, because regardless of the bugs and all of that, I just don't really like the tone. It seems just edgy.
I can get behind you on that. It's maybe just a little. Are you worried about the sort of self-seriousness of it all?
Slightly po-faced, but also slightly like edgelordy, And right. I hate that, and I don't know. I don't know. I've seen people playing it so far, and it doesn't look that fun. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure it will get better to play, but there you go.
I mean, the combat looks surprising, probably better than I thought it would. Actually, there's more of a weight to things than I was expecting. Like, I kind of thought that's usually like the when you get these RPGs that have like a first person perspective and shooting. It's like the shooting is normally where it falls apart, right?
Oh, sure.
The Outer Worlds being a recent example, and Zach, maybe that you describe Fallout in that way.
Yes,
but it kind of looks all right as a shooter.
Yeah. Well, we will see. Still, obviously it's a next year game if it's a game.
Yeah,
to play.
I think I'm happy to wait for that because we've been waiting for God knows how long, eh?
Well, yeah.
I think what's most disappointing about this as a release, it's like, hey, this was supposed to have come out after many delays beforehand, but at some point it was due out in March this year.
Can you imagine what it would look like?
Targeting current gen consoles, right?
And I don't get the sense that they added all of the ray tracing and stuff right at the end to put. They wouldn't have done that, right?
No, I don't think so. And it's like, if you think about it, they would have been. The delay to now, in a weird way, makes its shortcomings more forgivable because the new consoles are here. But I don't think it should be forgivable, if you see what I mean. It's like they were clearly targeting the current generation of consoles with this at some point, and it's I guess at some point in the dev cycle, someone looked at it and thought, you know what, the new consoles are coming. Never mind. Anyway, that's Cyberpunk. And that's the top
delaying stuff to come out with a console, except not.
Well, yeah, hang on. I was going to say a little bit more about Cyberpunk, and there's been some. It's also been a slightly controversial release in terms of the review process, which is worth mentioning as well, because like all the reviews will be for the PC version because they didn't release any console code.
Right, for review.
So it's
honestly, that seems
be careful.
Like kind of risky on their part.
Absolutely.
To just like assume that reviewers are going to have PCs that can handle it.
I mean that as well, and also reviewers are wise to this behavior.
Well, sure.
It's usually when they hold back codes, it's for a reason.
And also, most reviews are tagged by platform nowadays anyway. So, to some extent, they're not going to get people aren't going to get tricked quite so easily as they once did.
Yeah, but I think sites like Metacritic, if you're the sort of person that still uses that as a guide, like that's less so, right? Like, I think you look up Cyberpunk right now, and it's kind of a blend of all the platforms for which it's primarily PC reviews right now.
I'm just wondering, like, am I not hyped for Cyberpunk just because I'm not 16 anymore? Is that? Do you know what I mean?
Well, and you've done it. You've had your Deus Ex.
Well, maybe, but is Deus Ex? Because I think we will give it a go and play some Deus Ex. But like, obviously, that is stupid bugs and it is pretty weird and it's not as cool as it seemed when you were 16, obviously. But I still think it's got something in terms of tone that is superior somehow. So we'll see what we think of it now. It's a lot of COD philosophy and trite stuff, but still I think it's got something.
It probably got away with it because it was like early. I mean, that's
exactly. But is it just
do that stuff?
Yeah,
it's because it's like Cyberpunk, but via the 90s rather than Cyberpunk via the 2010s.
Yeah.
Or the 2020s. Well, actually, I guess when did Cyberpunk 2077 as a brand become a thing?
A
right,
long time ago. Right,
well, Cyberpunk
was like 7 years ago, with that lady in the street with the blade arms.
No, but I mean, like because it's based on.
It's from the late 80s, isn't it? Early 90s. The board game Cyberpunk.
That's what I was referring to. Yeah. It's like I couldn't remember when.
So it's pre Deus Ex. In fact, it probably informed quite a lot of Deus Ex.
But that's not necessarily going to translate into the game. The game is still a product of its time.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Because Johnny Silverhands or whatever, the Keanu Reeves character is from the original timeline, right? So he's dead, I think.
I think that's how that works.
Yeah, something like that.
Also, apparently, he's like the best thing in the game.
Right,
Keanu kills it. As let's move on because we're running short on time, I guess. Halo, yeah, you're not going to see that for maybe a year.
So they
the best part of one
ray
now.
tracing, apparently.
Well, I hope they rescue that game.
Yeah, 100%. Give it. I mean, it's a bummer because it makes the Series X official lineup even more anemic than it was before. And next year's lineup is looking pretty weak. It has to be said, and because Microsoft haven't said that Avowed is coming out. They haven't said that Hellblade 2 is coming out. They haven't said that Forza game is coming out. It's very quiet. Fable, like Microsoft are clearly working on a lot of stuff, but it's
The
not
hardware
ready.
seems really great for the Series X. I hope.
Yeah, I mean,
get some games.
it is. Yeah, but I'm yet to really. You know what? I'm yet to really know that.
Yeah.
If I'm perfectly honest, it's like I can play No Man's Sky on it better than I can on my PC. That much I have proven, and it's a better experience using my Xbox for that.
Yeah.
But
that's the thing about.
That's all I've really got to go on.
But that's the thing about Halo Infinite, right? If it had come out, then you wouldn't have known it, because it was obvious from that demo that it was like designed so that it could run on One X or whatever.
Sure.
Or, yeah. So you still wouldn't have really known it, because you could all that pop in and stuff. I can't believe they showed that trailer. Anyway,
I think. I bet internally there's like a couple of developers now who are sitting there going like, no, we absolutely need to show this because people need to see what turd we've got right now, and it needs to be delayed.
Maybe. So it's a conspiracy. Okay.
But at the
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a certain element of like you want it to fail sometimes, but to prove your point.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But at the time, it definitely seemed like someone. It seemed like it was a lack of communication rather than like a specific person say like an agenda. It seemed like someone had just assumed that Halo was going to come out with the new console, and then wandered over to 343 and were like, "Hey, can you make a trailer?"
Well, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, almost more worrying for the game in that is, okay, great, they're going to fix the graphics and maybe even drop support for some of the older platforms, but that's meant to be scary, that like random brute at the end, like story wise. Like,
I don't think it was meant to be scary. I think
Oh,
it was
well,
meant to be
intimidating,
Halo
or-
antagonist, which is like they always are.
I didn't get a like what like a horror vibe or anything like that. Or just or even that much menace. It's just, hey, it's Halo.
Hey,
it's a brute.
It's a guy.
I mean, it's pretty much like tone-wise on point with the previous brute villains, like Tartarus or whatever. He wasn't particularly scary either.
No, but Tartarus was a tool of the prophets, right, or whatever. Right?
Not really, because he
kinda
had his own agenda, and then
he did definitely have his own agenda, and of course he's
betrays
part of the whole brute and elite rebellion, isn't he?
Betrays the prophets and then steals the what's his face orb.
Not really rebellion.
343.
He guides the prophets, doesn't he, to kick out the elites.
Yeah, and then
it's kind of his fault.
And then when the prophets die, he's like, "How convenient!"
Yeah. So we'll be waiting for that for a while. And the only other bit of news I've got is Netflix are working with Sega on a new Sonic cartoon.
What, a CG one or like a?
I don't think they've said, but it's just a cartoon of some description.
First you say no. Then you get out of there.
Hey, Sonic Boom was all right.
Was it?
I mean, the game's not good, but the cartoon's fine.
Oh, okay. I'll take your word for it.
It's surprisingly decent.
Have they got the rights to that? Is that on Netflix now?
I don't know where that is, actually. I haven't looked.
Because they usually do that, don't they, Netflix? They're like, okay, we're making a new series based on this property, and here's all the old stuff.
I mean, I'd watch it again.
Oh man, just imagine if they put all the old Sonic cartoons on Netflix. Like, like Sonic X.
Sonic X, yeah.
and the older ones that people actually like.
I could actually finish watching that. I never finished watching Sonic X. Back in the day. Of 2003, or whenever it was I was watching it. To be a child again. A child of 18.
Exactly. The perfect time.
And that's news, which doesn't leave us a lot of time for everything else.
No.
Was there some Gears news or something?
I mean, they're doing a campaign expansion, which I don't think they've done before, in fairness, but it's free to those on Game Pass. Woo!
Woo! All right, what you been playing then? Zeg, you better go, I guess.
if my power stays online long enough for me to talk about it.
Has it literally been your electrical power?
Yes, it's doing that. It's happened like from time to time over the last like year or two, I guess. There'll just be a day when the power has like several repeated cuts, like evenly spaced out. It's obviously some kind of work being done somewhere, and they're not like
Right.
correctly compensating or whatever the hell you do on the power grid. But it happens from time to time. But it seems to have gone away now. Normally, there's a several of them in a short period of time, and then it's fine. So we're probably good. So anyway, what have I been playing? Well, Rocket League, obviously, but we talked about that. I've continued to play Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
I'm now done with like the base game, so I haven't actually started any of the DLC stuff. But I've got all the shrines and all that, and the Divine Beast and all that done.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got to do all the new shrines from the expansion and the Master Sword trial, and then I might actually be finished. Maybe.
Did you have the patience to do the Yiga shrine stealthily, or?
No, I just did it stasis and shoot them in the face.
Classic.
So much easier.
Why didn't I think of that at the time? I hated that section.
Yeah, it's dumb and bad. And now I've got the Yiga clan following me everywhere. God,
of course.
It's still the worst part.
All over the place.
Get your bananas.
Infinite bananas.
Yeah.
I want bananas.
So there's that. And then I guess the main thing that I've been playing apart from Breath of the Wild, well, I suppose there's a little bit of Animal Crossing because it's winter. So,
Oh, right. It's gone snowy now.
Yes, it has finally gone snowy. It actually didn't go snowy immediately in December. It was like after the first week, it turned snowy. And it's weird because, Animal Crossing doesn't really have seasons. Like, the island is, your plants always remain, like, there's always fruit on the trees and your flowers are always out, regardless of the fact that there's snow everywhere. It's like, it doesn't actually have a seasonal system. It's purely an aesthetic thing. With a couple of, like, little bonus events thrown in. Like, now you can make a snowman, and then the snowman becomes alive and gives you shit.
Okay, that's quite terrifying.
Well, it's really annoying because you have to make a perfect snowman where you have to get the body and the head the right size. Except the game doesn't tell you what the right size is. Like, you make a snowman and then it basically when you talk to it, it's like you were close, but the head has to be in better proportion to the body, and it's like, what does that mean?
So is Animal Crossing body shaming your snowman?
Yeah, I guess.
Outrageous.
And the thing is, like, if you go and look at, say, an image online of what a perfect snowman actually looks like, the head and the body are nearly the same size. Like, the head is very slightly smaller than the body, and that's not what I would think of for like a well-designed snowman.
No,
I think the head is meant to be smaller.
The Calvin and Hobbes ones.
Yeah, exactly. Although it's not a three-part snowman in Animal Crossing, so you can't completely do that.
All right.
It's only a two-parter. But yes, that's slightly annoying. But, it's just to get winter-themed crafting recipes to use the snowflakes to make snowflake decorated stuff, which is, only going to be relevant for about 2 more weeks, and then you'll be done with Christmas. And, there's going to be a Christmas, so everyone can, ignore their family on Christmas Day and play Animal Crossing instead.
What have they called it?
I don't remember what it's called.
It's because it's got a dumb name, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's like
Not
gift day or something.
Oh, right. Not like Winter Bunny Day.
Maybe. I don't actually remember what it's called. But we already had Turkey Day, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
They're not that inventive.
It's Turkey Day.
But again, it's sort of the same situation as whatever that other... Was it Turkey Day? It was the other event where the shop sells a specific item that you obviously need to buy approximately 10 of before the end of the event. And it's, of course, because it's Christmas presents. You're going to hand those out to people on the day, presumably. And I've also seen like a teaser thing out of Nintendo showing a New Year's countdown. So if you want to be even more antisocial in Animal Crossing, go and do literal New Year's Eve. Do that in Animal Crossing instead of real life. Although, that might actually be the only way you can do it.
Yeah, you can't really do a proper New Year's party anymore.
I was about to say, because isn't it going to tighten up again before? Like, we've got some...
Yes, we've got the special Christmas allowance. And then
the special, let's all get coronavirus party.
For Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas, yeah. And then
maybe that's what it's called. It's called Virus Day.
So there's that. And then the actual main thing that I've been playing is the 6.0 patch came out for Mindustry, which was like it's quite a big like patch for that game that does quite a lot of significant work to rebalancing and adding new systems essentially. The main one is that they've now the campaign mode used to just be like the maps. You'd just pick a map, and the maps were in like a tree essentially, where you go from one map to the next in order. And you do still do that, but now the maps are integrated into a world map, and there's still the original campaign maps still exist, and that's still sort of how you progress through the tech tree. Like you have to go and do those specific maps to unlock the ability to unlock the tech. But then the rest of the world map is just populated with procedurally generated maps. So now you can just go and do these random extra maps, and obviously the idea is to take over the whole planet eventually. And there's sort of a weird sort of real-time element to it that, like, if you have a map that you've claimed that's next to an enemy base, that the enemy base can continue to attack your map even while you're not playing it. So if you're playing another map, sometimes you'll get an alert that like one of your other maps is under attack, and then that I don't know exactly how it's doing it, because it seems like maybe it just straight up does just run the other map in the background, because it can sort of tell how effective your defenses are, even if that map isn't the one that you're currently playing. So like it will, when you go to the world map and look at the map that's under attack, it will be like, this map can survive 10 out of 20 waves, and then it will start getting destroyed. And it's like somehow it can sort of estimate the power of your defenses, even if it's not running the map. I assume it must be somehow running the map, because you can also jump into that map at any time, like leave the map you're currently playing to auto defend and go to that map, and it will still be running the same like wave attack system. It's kind of weird, and also kind of annoying. It's like I don't want to be constantly distracted from the map that I'm actually working on by having to deal with this other map. But obviously the idea is you're meant to set up sufficient defenses to defend it, and then you can just leave it to defend itself.
But presumably they don't last forever? Is that what it's suggesting? Or is there a way to build a forever defense?
Well, kind of, because you can basically have a lot of stuff auto-repair. Like there's a type of unit you can build that will auto-repair destroyed buildings, and you can have like repair fields that just repair damage in the vicinity. So you can effectively build invincible defenses. But even when it is getting re-attacked, it's still ramping up. Like it still counts, or at least the one map that I've seen it happen on, it counts when you're doing a wave defense map. It's like survive 35 waves and then you win the map. But then if that map gets attacked, it's like it's wave 36 out of 40. So it's still adding waves on top of how many waves the map originally had. So those waves are still getting more powerful over time. So potentially you might end up in a situation where you're inevitably going to lose that map unless you take over the enemy bases. So yeah, it's quite a weird, like, real-time system. And that
maybe
also,
those are just like little roadblocks, as I say, to the point where can you move up the tech tree on other levels, and then does that help out your original ones, and you come back to them, and then like
because you can
own the area,
go back and build new turrets or whatever that you've unlocked. But it's also got this sort of global system sort of contributes into resources as well, because initially each map is like its own thing, and then when you start the next map, you launch from the map you're on or one of the adjacent maps, which determines what resources you can take with you, essentially, because you're taking resources from the map you're playing to the new map. But once you get far enough out of the text tree, you get the launch pad building that lets you launch resources from a map to a different map. So then you sort of reach this point where you're going back to maps you've previously played to make them sort of factories for one specific resource, and then you launch those resources to a different map, like the map you're currently playing. So
not too dissimilar from Factorio in space.
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of like space exploration. But the trouble with that is that it then becomes like much less of the game it originally was. Like because unless your base is next to an enemy base and it does that continuous attack thing, when you win the map, you just win, and that's it. The map just never gets attacked again, as far as I can tell. So then you're basically playing the non-tower defense version of Mindustry, where you're just making that map more efficient in terms of production to ship the resources out to other maps. But like that's literally half the game that you're not playing any longer because you're not playing the tower defense half of the game any longer, which is kind of weird.
And you can just build this epic, because presumably you only need one map in that state, and you can just make that an epic farm.
Kind of, but like because of some maps don't have all the resources or whatever, and also
I see.
particularly with the procedurally generated maps, you tend to not have like very good amounts of open space to actually build large factories in. So you probably the way I've been doing it is one or two of the campaign maps that do have most of the resources. Those are the ones I worked on the most, and then like a couple of procedurally generated maps that had some amount of good space. I sort of made specialized factories in for just one or two resources, and then just use the launch pads to ship that all into one central place, and then use that base to ship them all out again. Because it also has a slightly annoying system where the launch pads can only launch to one location. So all the launch pads on the map that you're playing will launch to only one other place. And then when you want to change that, you have to load into that map and then select the launch pad and then choose a new target. So if you want to ship all the stuff you're making to the new map that you've just started, you have to go around each of your individual maps and change all their launch pads to launch that place. So I was like, well, screw that. I'll just tell them all to launch to one map, and then that map I'll tell to launch to the new map. So we'll make a centralized depot, essentially. Which kind of works, except then you're limited by like belt throughput and how many unload slots you can fit around your core, and it's just like it's a slightly awkward system that would really be better if you could command the launch pads from the map view, essentially, to just be like, this map, send your resources over here without having to physically load into it. But yeah, it's quite an interesting update, and they also completely rebalanced like the unit system. The turrets are pretty much the same. There's a couple of new high tier turrets, but they rebalanced the unit system for the attacking mode, where the enemy actually has a base and you send units to attack. Because now all the units you can build are basically like an upgrade tree. Like you build a unit factory that just puts out a unit, but then you can like put an upgrade factory in front of that factory so that the unit, instead of just coming out, goes into the upgrade factory and then gets like upgraded to its next form. So you can build like these weird chains of factories together, or you can even have like specialized unit belts that move actual physical units around. So you can be like, some of the units could go into the upgrade, or some of them could just come out. So it's quite a weird system, but it feels like you
can't just build a factory that just builds the upgraded one.
No, yeah, you have to build like the 3 or 4 tiers of factory beforehand that lead into the final one. Yeah, and it's quite space inefficient as well. But I've tried attacking a enemy base that was classed as, I think it's classed as extreme. So obviously it has like difficulty levels or threat levels. It was like low, medium, high, and extreme. And I've also seen there's apparently another tier beyond that called extermination. But I tried attacking an extreme map, and it's a procedurally generated map, and it had like not really very much space near your spawn to build in. And as far as I can see, the only realistic way you're going to be able to do that map is to ship resources in from outside and basically only build a unit factory attached to your core. Like, don't bother building any infrastructure on that map. Just rely on imports and then just pretty much use the space you have to produce units as fast as possible. Which is weird, but you know, I guess that's a thing. That's a puzzle to solve, as always. So yeah, that's Mindustry. It's quite a nice update for that game. It'd taken quite a while to come out, but yes, it did actually come out.
Alt Factoria.
Yes, indeed. And then I guess the one other thing to talk about, which is the convenient transition to Rob again, is No Man's Sky, because we still played that a little bit.
We did, yeah. I have to say, I had No Man's Sky's redemption arc that I talked about earlier. I can see it.
You didn't see it. you new player. You didn't.
Yeah,
you did.
You haven't gone through the pain.
I mean, I haven't. No, but like where it's at right now, I think I've got the best of it.
Yes, well, obviously,
it's
coming at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's got its annoyances. Like I still find like managing the inventory a pain in the arse, and it's like conceptually weird, like all over the place, like just how this universe works. It's odd, but it's a good time. It kind of is. Like, even when it breaks and I just keep getting flung outside of a space station that I was standing in 2 seconds ago and dying in the coldness of space over and over again, it eventually sorts itself out and it's fine. And they've apparently fixed that bug. So it's
that bug specifically.
Yeah, there were spaceships that were far too big for space stations landing in space stations, and then it would just shove the player models out.
Nice. That's cool though.
I mean, it was kind of funny, but kind of annoying for a while, where it's just like, I'd quite like to live now.
Yeah, I'd quite like to be able to do anything on this space station before getting chucked.
Yeah, and Zach's and I's experience has been okay. I mean, you've had some disconnection issues, right? And it doesn't seem. And I think it glitches more often than it does in single player and multiplayer. But,
it doesn't seem to be very good at like maintaining a connection. Like, if you join into multiplayer and you're like, I'm going to join into this group with my friend or whatever, sometimes it just kind of forgets that you're meant to be joined with this other player. I don't know if it's like if you jump too far, but I never jumped more than like one system away from where you were. But yeah, it definitely seems to be quite easy to drop out, and it doesn't really notify you when it does either. Is the other
no,
and it's still, even if it's like dropped you out of the group and you're effectively playing by yourself, it still like assumes it's multiplayer. It still acts like it's multiplayer. Like, the message pops up that says like, position not saved in multiplayer, only data saved in multiplayer, but you're not actually in multiplayer any longer, technically.
Yeah, it's a bit finicky on that stuff, but hey, the crossplay seems to work, and the inbuilt voice crossplay seems to work.
Always too well.
Yeah, which I may actually switch to using, because the way I'm having to. What Zach and I have been doing it previously is we've usually fire up our Mumble server, and so I've got the PC running that, and as I've now proven, playing on the Xbox on the Series X is the better way to play it than on my PC. Hey, loading times are longer, the graphic pop-in is a lot longer on PC. The Xbox beats my PC now, so it's best me playing it there. Also, I had a bit of a scare with the cross save not working at one point.
Yeah.
Where when I loaded it on PC, the first time I tried it with Zach, it loaded an old save, and I'm like, "Oh God, where's my stuff?" so that didn't quite work. So perhaps sticking to a single platform is a smart idea. But hey, I guess I'd never tried it on Xbox, and it must have done this for a while. But I can just plug my my headset into the controller, and the console audio comes out of the controller as well, so I can just have my entire headset experience on the Xbox just by plugging my headset into the controller. And I guess it's just like, okay, yeah, sure, of course it would do that, but it's like I've never tried that on a console since the days where like just the voice is coming out on a headset and everything else is going through your speakers. It's probably
because you were thinking back to the days when that kind of socket was proprietary and not just like a generic socket.
Absolutely, because the first thing I looked it up a little bit beforehand, and there were some people suggesting it's like, oh yeah, you're probably better off attaching the voice adapter to the new controllers, which adds the buttons at the bottom of the controller, and then plugging your headset into that. And I'm like, well, I can't, because the one I have is actually attached to the old Xbone headset, so I could plug that into the controller and use my Xbone headset, but then it's not quite the whole picture. I want to be able to have everything in my new headset, and it's like, yeah, just plug it in, and it just works. So, yeah, I'm an idiot, I guess. Or it's just something I've never tried. I was just surprised that it works. So, yeah.
Using the in-game voice would certainly make it more obvious when we disconnect.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, you've gone quiet for a very long time. We'll just have to keep talking. Have to make sure you keep talking. Occasional check-ins. Ping! Yeah, I don't know. I'm quite taken with it. It's decent. I should be playing 2020 games, but, No Man's Sky. It's good. I have been playing some 2020 stuff, though. If I may segue.
You may. I grant you segue powers. Segue.
Right, so I'll be pretty quick on these. Star Renegades. So I thought I was getting into a bit of an RPG with this. It's pixel art, RPG, turn-based strategy sort of style. Where it's got a good look to it. It's got a nice timeline-based combat system. It's somewhat reminiscent of I don't know, like Rain Slick Precipice of Darkness kind of thing, or the third one at least, where there's a visible timeline on screen, and but the trick to this game is like, hey, you can stop enemies from attacking most of the time because you can push them out of the timeline.
I mean, that was kind of the trick of Rain Slick as well.
Yeah, except there's a limit.
Push everyone back all the time.
Yeah, like everything works in rounds in this. So like your round, what moves you pick determines where in the round your characters sit in the timeline. But the enemy's they're already all in the timeline. And if you attack ahead of them, you get extra ability. If you manage to hit an enemy in the round before they're able to do their action, that's how you get critical hits. And those impart extra effects and potentially impart this staggering effect to push them back in the timeline. So yeah, the trick is to push them out of that round so you can action again. However, you can only do that so much on most enemies. You can break them a certain number of times or stagger them a certain number of times, and then they have to do their action. At which point, that's where you have to get defensive and think about it that way. And for the most part, the system works. However, it then dawned on me, and it really should have dawned on me quicker. This is a run-based game.
Oh,
so it's a turn-based RPG run-based game. And I played one run and got past the first planet. It's like I got an FTL, I think, style structure. And then got to the second planet and got my ass handed to me, like, immediately. So I don't quite know what the trick is to powering up fast enough yet. Then kind of played a little bit of a second run and haven't touched it since. It kind of, because I'm doing the second run and it kind of feels like, okay, I've got different characters in my party, but I'm not sure I've picked as good a mix as you get in your first run. So I'm finding this second run immediately more difficult, and I'm like, well, am I just going to have to run this run then and die, and then perhaps take what credit I've got and maybe make it so it has that thing where you can buy weapons that may randomly appear in your next run, and stuff like that. And a little bit's like, this is going to take forever, isn't it? Because it's an RPG. The runs take ages.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not knocking the game particularly. It seems fine, but it's just not what I need right now. It's like it made a good first impression, but when I figured out its true nature, I was less interested. I should have done my research. Also, it's got like a musical motif that keeps playing around most of the levels, but it's really irritating. It's like and it's just that endlessly, like almost endlessly. You hear it a lot, and it's really, after a while it just gets annoying. And it's in that sort of, the instrument sounds exactly like my mouth pretty much there. It's like yeah. That's probably a good contender for most annoying audio thing. So there's that. I've also been putting quite a lot of time into Haven, which Gnome describes as that boring bad game. It's kind of a
sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So I think it's made by the same team that made Fury previously. And this is quite a departure from that. It's an RPG about two people fleeing a society they don't particularly agree with, and they're in love. And the game wants to make that very clear to you with lots of sassy chat and visual novel style conversations.
Sassy chat? What, like a Joss Whedon style?
No, okay, one kind of sass. Let's say it swings the balance from awkward relationship-y stuff to excessively sweet relationship-y stuff to sexy times.
Great.
It's a little strange, but it's quite well written. I'll give it that. And the performances aren't bad, even if the there's moments where I think it's like, I wonder if 2020 had an effect on some of the audio recording. Like maybe they were recording some of the lines at home rather than in a recording studio or something like that. Some of it's a bit the levels. As much as we talk about levels ahead of recording a podcast and all that sort of jazz, it's like the levels in this seem variable to the extreme. Sometimes perhaps a little bit distorted. So like, hey, presentation's not hot in places. So there's that, and that's, to be honest, that side of it is the majority of the game, is these conversations and this relationship between the two characters, of which the lady is called you, which is mildly confusing when they're talking about hey you or like you. Yeah, to make some of the dialogue kind of awkward. Yeah,
great name. Bar around
and and they do the whole they don't swear in this game, but they do swear replacements. So there's a lot of bloot.
Bloot? What does that replace?
Well, any kind of swear you want. Oh,
you
bloot. Oh, it's a blootin' good time. So there's that side to the game, and then there's the other side, which is a sort of explorative RPG where you're put on these fractured islands, effectively, and you're just fly. You don't really walk around; you fly around. You have jet boots, and the idea you find this red stuff at some point where if you fly over it and you clear it up, you gain resources and clear up the area. Yay! That's kind of what you're doing. And there are these threads that you can fly along to charge up your flow. But there are bits where the game makes you do that right at the start. It goes like, yeah, it's a flow thread, and flow is like the power in this world. And it's so you fly along it and you charge up and you go, yeah, I've done that. And then for a long time, the game doesn't really explain to you why you would want to do that. And there's loads of these threads everywhere. And it's like, yeah, but I don't understand why I've got flow charge. It doesn't help me in any way. And I've only really just kind of got to the point where there's a kind of a purpose in discharging my flow and using it for something. So it's like, it's kind of weird that it introduces the threads so early and yet they're completely useless for quite a while. But there are also things to fight as well. There are things that have been covered in this red stuff that they call rust and have been corrupted. And so you're fighting those. And then this is another bit where the game is kind of interesting but doesn't quite execute it well, in that it's got a so your two characters kind of have the same move sets, but there's only like 4 directions you can push on each of the sticks. So you can there's 4 actions that each player can take, but they can take them sort of individually, and it's all in real time. So it's like if you want to shoot an enemy, you could charge up a blast on one character while the other one is shielding, for instance, and you're doing that through stick flicks. And there are, well, not really stick flicks. You hold it in a certain direction and release it to action it. And eventually you get combinations where if you both try to shoot something, you do a dual shot, and that's more powerful, but takes a long time to execute and things like that. So it's... And there are timing elements to the combat as well. If you attack at a certain time, or if you shield at a certain time, you might stun an enemy, so you can then do more damage. And for the most part, it works. But the game, I don't think, is very good at teaching you how all that comes together. And it introduces those concepts at a snail's pace. And it's like, so it's one of those things. I think it's an interesting idea, having this kind of twin stick combat. But I wish it didn't have that charge phase quite so much, where you have to charge your shield before you go into a shielding state, and things like that. Because it just kind of like, it just makes getting the timing right incredibly difficult. Or you're not being aggressive; you're just sitting there being like, "Well, I'll shield for a while, and then I'll wait for the moment." And now he's attacking. Now we're safe for a bit, and it's like, oh, you can get into a rhythm that way and do it that way. But it's kind of boring doing it the slow and methodical way. I think there could be more to it if it was more sudden. If your actions were more instant, that what you were doing, they could have made an interesting combat system there.
I see.
So it's a game.
Yeah.
So I think it's a game of ideas, but not necessarily execution. Overall, I don't know how much of it I've got left. I think I'm about halfway through it. I will say the music's not bad.
That's good.
And I had a weird moment where I was watching the intro video, which is actually really good. It's kind of like, I'm trying to remember. If you remember, like, in Lumines 2, on the
Okay.
on the Heavenly Star level, Genki Rocket's Heavenly Star level, there was like a sort of hand-drawn neon-y sort of video that went alongside it in the background, and their intro sequence is a little bit like that, and it's really well done. And I had a bizarre moment where my Spotify discovery list had actually suggested the music from the intro, so I recognized the music as I started, as the game booted up. It's like, I've heard this. It's quite a good intro track. Yeah. There's that.
Nice.
Anything else that I can remember? Star Renegades, Haven, No Man's Sky, Rocket League. Yeah, that's probably it. I'm sure I missed something. I always miss something. Oh, I played I had a session of playing Hero Quest over Tabletop Simulator.
Oh, right.
I mean, it works. It's what it says on the tin. We played Hero Quest, but we used Tabletop Simulator to do it instead. And after our moderator turned off most of the game's tools, so we didn't keep breaking things.
That is the problem with Tabletop Simulator, because a lot of the time you have to have someone who actually understands how to set up things. Because it's like setting up a real game, except even more complicated.
Yeah, I mean, he had really taken the time to set up what he was doing. He'd put quite a lot of effort into it.
Because you've got, it's so, because if you just load into one of those things without knowing, you're like, how you have to look at all the different parts and then shift them around and like hand them out to the different players, and then it'll be like, okay, you have to make your hidden zone so other people can't see this.
Exactly, yeah. So he'd had all that set up and things like that. I mean, it's cool that you can, though.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of tools in tabletops. You can have like character sheets and type on them and things like that, and you can put random bits of text over the board and things to like point things out. And you've got pencil tools, all of which were taken away from us pretty quickly,
sure,
because we were messing around with them. And it's like when we discovered the flick function, he was like, "Oh God, please don't do that," because you could just fling stuff across the table, Sabutio style.
Don't forget the table flip.
That was immediately turned off.
Yep.
The tutorial does teach you that, though. Like when you're learning how to control the game, it's just like, here's the table flip button.
So necessary that they put a whole button in.
Yep. No, it was fun. I'm not sure I think much of Hero Quest, honestly, but because it's sort of D&D but simple. But it was fine. It was fun. I was the terrible elf known as Pablo Contraband.
That's a great name. Pablo Contraband. Did you come up with that? That's brilliant. And what's Mexican about elves? or
Not a lot,
Spanish?
really.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was terrible because I basically just I got bored at one point and just sort of left the party and was just sort of doing my own thing, which then caused like one of our party got into a massive fight and died because I left him on his own. And it's like, ha, Pablo.
Oh, where are you when I need you, Pablo?
The funny part of that story is that this character, this wizard that I left on his own, like apparently had been used to play through the entire regular Hero Quest campaign before. So it's like this long-running character has been felled by Pablo being an arse.
Thanks, Pablo.
It was quite funny.
Gracias.
Gracias. And that's me.
Right. Yeah. And that's probably a podcast, isn't it? I haven't been playing much. I've just been watching my flatmate play Hollow Knight, which looks good, to be honest.
I do want to get around. I think I may have a copy of that now. So I would
play that. It looks good.
Yeah. It looks like my jam, honestly.
Yeah. I think you'd be into it. It looks cool. Yeah. What are we doing other content-wise? We've got Obra Dinn is done.
Yes, the finale is coming.
Yeah.
Factorio is actually done.
Factorio is done. There were nukes
Yep.
involved. I don't know if they were good or bad, because I haven't watched to find out.
It depends on your opinion of the fighters on this planet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so check that out. And then I don't know what our Christmas schedule is for recording, so I don't know when we'll have another Saladcast, but it'll probably be Game of the Year, right?
I don't know.
Maybe.
know what we're
It's less than 2 weeks away, right? So, yeah.
But sometimes the game of the year has to come in January for us.
Well, it probably will be by the time I'm back here to a microphone. So,
yeah. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
harm in that. It gives us more time to actually perhaps catch up on some stuff.
you might have a slightly longer break, followed by some bumper content for the 2020 GOTY. 2020
Bumper
GOTY.
contact. We're playing Mary Pie.
Bumper contact.
Bumper balls.
And bumper content. So, ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. And catch you on the other side. Bye.